And our chair, Dawn Sherry, is absent, and so is Vice Chair Paul Zink. So we need to elect quickly a Chair Pro Tem to run this meeting today. So can we have any nominees for that person?
Nominate Chris. Or, I mean, this Chris.
Keith? Okay. Okay. Let's, any other nominees? All right. We're going to take a vote on that. All in favor of Keith Rivera for Chair Pro Tem for today? All right. So Keith, you have your notes there?
Yeah. Item of general business, public comment. Would anyone in the audience like to put their microphone? Would anyone in the audience like to comment on an item not on today's agenda? Seeing no one, we'll move to item B, approval of the minutes of the June 11th ADR meeting. Do I have a maker of that motion?
You have your mic on you properly?
How's that? Okay. So the minutes of June 11th, does anyone have a comment on any of the general business items before the first item? Any comments on item number 1? Item number 2?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I had a correspondence from the applicant for 901 Olive Street requesting that one item in the motion be clarified a little bit. Item 1 in the motion, they asked that it be clarified to, are you looking for future reductions in size, bulk, scale, and height? Or they asked that it be clarified to say that, the size, bulk, scale, and height have been adequately reduced at this point.
As the maker of the motion, I believe the wording here is correct, that we were appreciating the continued reduction and the elimination of the corrugated metal, but no further reductions are required in scale. Does that clarify that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments on item 3?
I actually have a comment still on item 2.
Okay.
Just on number 6, I believe there was some board members that didn't like the palm trees, so I would say the majority of the board supports the palm trees along the south of the elevation.
Agreed. Okay, if there's no further comment.
There is one more. I believe we were intentionally, this is for item number 2 and the number 3 of the motion, we were intentionally leaving out the phrase green screen because it's an actual product, I believe, trademark
Correct.
product.
The strike green screen, please. Okay, so we'll call for a vote for approval. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Move on to approval of the consent calendar of, which date would that be? June 18th. Can I have a maker of that motion? First by Chris. Second by Gary.
All right. Consent calendar for last week, June 18th. We had item A, 528 Anacapa Street. Got a final approval with a condition. Item B, 421 East Coda Street was approved as submitted. Item C, 1701 Anacapa Street, got a project design approval and a final approval with conditions. Item D, 1008 Chino Street, a review after final was approved with conditions. Item E, 301 South Hope Avenue, got project design and final approval as noted. Item F, 601 East Mitchell Terrena Street, a review after final was approved as noted, and consent last week was reviewed by Keith Rivera and Chris Gilliland.
Vote, all in favor? Aye.
Okay.
And then approval of the consent calendar minutes for today, June 25th. Can I have a maker of that motion? First by Kurt, second by Chris.
Okay, consent calendar today, June 25th, we had item A, 401 and a half Old Coast Highway. A review after final was continued 1 week. Item B, 150 South La Cumbra Road was continued 1 week. Item C, 900 Calle de los Amigos was postponed 1 week. Item D, 2015 Red Rose Way, got a final approval with conditions. Item E, 3132 State Street, got a project design approval and final approval with conditions. And consent today was reviewed by Keith Rivera and Chris Gilliland. When it's continued, that means you've had a review, and the reviewers or an applicant agree to see it again next week. When it's postponed, that means the item was not reviewed at all. The applicant, in this case, the applicant was absent. He couldn't make it today.
So all those in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Okay, motion carried. All right. Next item. Tony, announcements, requests by applicants.
Yes, as we mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, Don Sherry and Paul Zink are absent today. Stephanie Poole, as far as I know, will be here, but she'll be stepping down on item 2. And 901 Olive Street, the project design approval 2 weeks ago was appealed by one of the neighbors, Grant Castleberg. He's concerned about size, bulk, scale, neighborhood compatibility, so that'll be appealed to the City Council. We'll let you know later what that date will be. We'll ask somebody to attend or represent the ABR at that hearing. And we sent a memorandum to you from Derek Bailey, the supervising transportation engineer, regarding crosswalk enhancements. And we just wanted to clarify that that was for your information, or if you want to make comment to transportation on that. But those crosswalk enhancements do not require ABR review and approval. They are just considered to be traffic control devices. So this was for your information. I'm sure they'll be willing to hear whatever suggestions you have. And that's all I have for announcements.
Subcommittee reports. I don't believe we have any, so we'll move on to item 1, 1130 Punta Gorda Street. State your name and proceed.
I'm Jan Hockhauser of Hockhauser Bladder Architecture and Planning. Mandar Kelkar's with me. He's also with Hockhauser Bladder Architecture and Planning. And David Black is here as the landscape architect. And this is a redevelopment of an old mobile home park at the project address on Punta Gorda Street. This is actually a project that is under jurisdiction of the state. The state has the permitting authority, and through a development agreement with the city, the purview of the city is limited to the items specifically stipulated in the agenda. So in terms of layout, unit design, those are not really before us today. We're just dealing with color, roof material, and landscaping as the basic issues to be reviewed. But to bring everybody up to speed, this is a very similar configuration to what was existing in the past. There were some existing buildings that are proposed to be raised, and the project consists of these 40 mobile home units and a community building lean-to outdoor space. That's part of the project. This specific building feature is subject to the review of the ABR. That's something we can discuss and review the design of. Basically, you're dealing with mobile home units that are two-story in nature. The development agreement with the city of Santa Barbara limited the city to oversight of 10% or 4 units that were one-story units. And we, in our opinion, suggested that those be located at the biggest open spaces to create kind of an opening. So those one-story units are located here, 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 and here, to kind of address open space on the site. The city is moving forward with an improvement and enhancement to the Sycamore Creek Channel. And in our dialogue with Public Works, Creeks, and the city, we agreed to a 10-foot setback that was stipulated by the city, with vegetation allowed to grow under a portion of these units as they hang over at flood level here. And to quickly get to this is kind of gives you an overview of exactly what's happening here. So you get 2 versions of 2-story units with altering roof configurations. And you can see the 1-story units placed where I described them earlier. So we're here before you with detailed landscape plans, colors, materials, and roof materials to discuss those items with the board. If I might get into a little bit more detail on the units themselves. You basically, and this was, these are a standard manufacturing model. We work with the manufacturer to actually vary the roof configurations to deliver some variation to the texture and grain of the project, as we didn't want to, recognizing that in its very nature it's a monotonous project. But in order to help break that down, the city asked for those 10% one-story units. We went the additional step and offered variations in roof direction and roof plane, and then we also went to the extra step of varying siding materials and siding color. And you basically have gable roofs that project in this direction, and then gable roofs that project in the other direction, longitudinal, transverse, and 2 horizontal and a vertical siding material where we vary the colors on each of those. This would be the color palette for one unit with this roof shingle. The dark color being the trim color. These are the body colors. And as you can see, the colors would vary with the siding types on a unit. Like the horizontal would be the light color here. The vertical would be the darker color. This would be all trim and windows. And the same is true on the other unit type, where you've got the 2 beige colors with the dark trim color. And just to further communicate the project to the board, on the site plan, this project backs up against an existing sound wall. The site has been scraped, and you can see in these photographs here, this is the existing sound wall that Caltrans put in.
That side.
Right.
One there.
Is that it?
Yeah, that is it right there. Yeah, we have to be. David can get into more detail about landscaping, but I thought I'd kind of show you how we took advantage of situations to deliver our best foot forward with regards to that. as I communicated originally, this is a riparian scheme that addresses what's going on from a vegetative standpoint in the reconfiguration and rehabilitation of Sycamore Creek. And working with Public Works, sidewalk trees along a new fence along the property line here, and then trees in the setback along the sound wall here. And in certain areas where we had open space, where we have the one-story units, we specifically addressed that with more vegetation and trees. Palms around this little open space, outdoor gathering space. There's a little vegetative space here with the opportunity for like a little bench along the creek here. We think we did a pretty good job of it. One of the things that we're excited about is the opportunity, given the nature of the project, to kind of overlay different patterns. Like you've got patterns of paving, textures in the siding, and rhythms of landscaping as they repeat. So it's kind of like playing with these different overlays to create what's this little mobile home park. Paving, as you could see in the architectural paving plan, you could see the pattern of pavers, permeable pavers, to help with groundwater recharge. So, I mean, that's kind of a very loose and general oversight, but I could get into specific questions, or if we want to get into a dialogue about it.
Okay, is there any further?
Presentation on landscape? Okay.
Second, is there a street elevation that shows kind of the lineup?
Just that 3D,
Okay, that's on there.
yeah. Yes, the community building is just before that 3D visualization. Oh, no, one more page. This is the 823.
Can you walk us through?
No,
this?
823 on
Okay. Well, that,
Is there on the side?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Another footprint.
let me get that to you. Okay, so going back to our site plan, this is kind of that open space, little community hardscape. And what we propose is a simple kind of lean-to outdoor structure where you'd have some picnic tables, kind of like a gathering area for residents. David's done, I think, a pretty commendable job of landscaping this, and it's really quite a simple feature within the center of the park. This park is in a floodplain, so all structures, habitable structures, have to elevate to a certain elevation, which is roughly 3 to 4 feet above grade. So all the units, you can see from the design of the individual mobile home units that there's like a step up that has to be compliant with housing urban development standards for mobile home parks. This structure is not considered habitable, so we're able to just kind of create it as a lean-to structure. If it was a heated, elevated space, it would have rampways or elevators, and that's not in the nature of the project.
Just show us one more time where that occurs on the south line.
Sure. That's right here. Structure like this. This actually behind here will back up the electrical service and meters for all the individual units.
And then is David covering fencing and?
Yeah, he can address that.
Not unlike what was shown, but relative to the landscape development, the major components are there are a number of existing oak trees in the parkway, but they didn't look all that healthy, so I discussed the matter with Randy Fritz, who's the street tree guy at Parks, and he agreed that because we had agreed to just replace them all, so that's what we're going to do. So there'll be oak trees in the parkway here. And then along Sycamore Creek, coincidentally, our firm did the restoration for the creek. So we're going to be using the same palette of riparian sort of upslope species of plants along this area here. There'll be a black chain link fence, which is part of the creek project, basically to secure it. And then there'll be a series of sycamores and various riparian plantings. And as Jan mentioned, they would extend, as you can see here, under the overhang of the living units there. And then we've detailed out a little bit more this sort of passive open space where people could come and sit on benches and perhaps look into the creekway, what have you. Then along the 101, we only have a 5-foot setback to work with, so we're looking to, get some verticality and to soften the impact of that sound wall, which I believe is around 10 feet or so. And then again, as Jan mentioned, we're showing sort of a little gathering space. This little terrace area is sort of an extension of the paved area under the unit here. And then just by contrast, we have some palms in and around this vicinity here. And then just to sort of soften, because we didn't have this when I first looked at this project, but we've insisted on having at least some planting strip fronting each of the units, which just would embellish the experience moving down here, up and down the driveways. And I think that's essentially it. Oh, I should point out, this hasn't been detailed yet, but we're anticipating a 42-inch high wood fence along the sidewalk. That's the max that you can have, and then a hedge behind that. So it'll be well buffered from the street, as you can see.
So you got the 6-foot chain link along the entire length of the
Yep.
creek to the property corner?
Right.
And then does that turn this corner to here, or what happens right there?
Good question. I think the sound wall extends all the way across, if I'm
Do
not
you have the
mistaken.
current photographs?
I think it does.
Yeah,
It sort of shows in one of the...
because I know the creek plans show it.
Yeah,
going
my
like that.
understanding, let's see those photos, we can show that. Do you have your photos?
Yeah, those are the ones.
I don't know if I extend down to that corner, but
Yeah, it does extend all the way past, because this building is right over here.
And then one other question for David. This tree, what kind of tree is that?
Which one?
And is that the big one? That's
Well-
shown on this guy right here.
no, that's going to go. That's what I understand to be a chamois ash, which is kind of a big invasive tree. I mean, it's got some size to it, but it's not something I would encourage. And we're trying to replace it with, these will all be like hymenosperm and what have you. Could be skyline trees as well. There's a total of 13 trees on site outside of the oak trees in the parkway, 3 of which are palms, which sort of indicated where they are, different locations. There's a eucalyptus, just sort of, miscellaneous trees. There's a eucalyptus ficifolia, which you can see here, and then there's some nondescript tree next to it, and there's another one right at the back of the sidewalk, not in very good condition, and then that ash tree down in the corner there. Obviously, this area would have to be cleared out and then made consistent with the creek plantings that are being proposed as part of the Sycamore Creek project. And of course, as I mentioned, these are all oak trees here.
Okay.
David,
Let's hold questions for a moment. Is there any comment from staff? Tony, I see.
I apologize, I wasn't here at the beginning, Betty Weiss, but I've been working very closely with the new property owner and his representatives to bring the project to the ABR. And we made a point of really listing on the agenda, and I'm sure Jan did this in his outline, the extent of review. And so we feel we're very fortunate to be able to have our Architectural Board of Review comment on a project that would otherwise only be reviewed at the state by the Housing and Community Development Department. So we asked them to bring as many elements, related to the materials and design as they've outlined. And so if you have any questions as you go along, I'd be happy to help. But it is a unique situation in that typically the project would not be here for review, but we have negotiated this amount of review.
Thank you. All right, so open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item? Seeing no one, we'll go to the board for questions. Chris, do you have any questions?
I guess I have a few minor questions. I'm trying to figure out the differentiation in the paving here. Is this?
Yeah, that's a
sort of
concrete border that holds the pavers into place.
Okay.
And then these need to be concrete panels for the driving. All these clearances that are dictated by the state are very precise in terms of what HUD allows and what a mobile home park is permitted by. So all our dimensions are very explicit, and this is the minimum requirement for that parking bay. That would be concrete. This ribbon would be concrete. I think it would be easier for everybody to see it on the actual site plan. And then this is actually a drainage swale. And we work with David because these units need to be pulled in and out of here at a time. Mostly they'll be in there for a long time, but they still need to gain access after all these improvements are in place. So what we worked out is the incorporation of this planter strip into that concrete border so that you could actually place 2 chocks in the planter and drive that thing in and still allow those plants to prevail. So, you know, I pressed David to say, David, what kind of unique plantings can help deliver a vocabulary? Again, going back to this idea of developing this layering of patterns, siding, roofs, pavings, what kind of planting palette could you come up with that delivers interesting verticality in the front of these units? So that's how we incorporated that planter strip. Then this concrete swale is a civil engineering feature that's required. And then working with staff and also trying to be as good as we can, because we didn't actually need as much permeable paving as we're showing here, but we think it develops a nice feel to the neighborhood, if you will, to have those permeable pavers. So that gives you the variety of pavement types.
And this would be concrete also?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically the dimension of these planters is set. And
Right.
yeah.
We're limited by requirements, circulation requirements, backup requirements.
Okay. I think all my other questions were answered with the presentation.
Gary?
One, David, the palm trees on the plan indicate they're going to be relocated. Are they going to be relocated where?
Well, probably off-site, unless they can be stockpiled. To be honest with you, in my view, they're probably too old to be reused on this site. I'd rather have some smaller ones. But we'll look into the possibility, and we will discuss with the property owner, too, whether, in fact, it could be relocated on-site. You know, obviously, in this location here. There are only 3 of them total now, but...
Okay. There was an indication of here it says there's a wood fence here, but I thought I saw elsewhere on the plan that you're putting a CMU wall there. Is that?
No, wood fence was the current and latest proposal for that frontage there.
Okay, so you're not putting a CMU wall there, and you are putting a CMU wall here.
That's right.
And this structure is also CMU?
Yeah, this CMU wall actually goes through and behind. It's incorporated as part of that structure.
Okay.
We wanted to keep that, you know, kind of simple and elegant, just a single height CMU wall, and actually have the roof structure become part of it. A couple of columns out front.
Can you indicate where the trash will be, trash and recycling?
You know, I can say right now we don't have that indicated.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Kurt.
Probably don't have any sizes indicated for trees at this point.
No, not at this stage.
Any other questions?
Stephanie?
Yeah, how much are you guys, what are you guys dictating the design of the mobile units?
Well,
Or able to modify them or change them, or like?
We can't change the
Enhance.
configuration, but we
Right.
can certainly talk about. And one of the things that we opened the board's purview to is siding, roof material. The layouts are dictated, you know, by the space and by HUD requirements. So, you know, we did agree to allow this board to comment on siding, textures, and materials.
So are these roof pitches I noticed are different on this one building? That's not, but other units have the same matching
They're the same
roof
pitches, but the configuration and orientation of
Right,
the
right.
pitches
What
changes.
changes?
So in other words, we felt that as you look at a streetscape or a freeway scape, if you will, that rather than having all gables in the same direction, introducing, having the factory modify the orientation of that gable would allow a better rhythm and play as one perceives the project whizzing by in the freeway. And also, this streetscape is above the hedge. You'll see these gables, but sometimes they'll break the other way, and I think that relief is a good thing.
I understand that you wouldn't want to have many windows along the Highway 101 elevations of these units, but the Punta Gorda Street elevations, it seems like you would, it would be nice to have more windows than is what is shown
Right.
as a friendlier street presence. Is that something, and as far as the detailing of these goes, is there any enhancements you could do to trim or
Well,
things
we,
like
we
that?
certainly are planning to trim it out and
Okay.
apply the colors properly. I don't disagree with your comment. In fact, I think we could talk to the factory and say, can you, at least in a certain number, to break it up and add again another patterning that helps be friendly to the community, add some windows to that streetscape elevation. Because I think, this is certainly a game of mass production, but to ask to insert some windows in X percentage units, we'll look into that. I'd be
Yeah.
delighted
I also
to do
noticed that, it's just a comment and earlier question, so I can save that till later. Okay.
A couple quick questions. Have you thought about the distribution of the different color schemes? Is it just going to be kind of every other one, or?
Well, what we had intended to do, and I think from a designer standpoint, our excitement about this project was this idea that you've got a kind of a very dense development that has really small modules for habitation. It's certainly something that the city and I think our community needs to fill a niche in available housing. But the idea of getting to rhythms of landscape, rhythms of unit types, rhythms of color is what I think is going to make this project work. So what we did develop is as I explained, we varied the units both in a 10% of one-story and then a roof configuration, a second-story roof that varies its orientation. We assign colors to that unit type, so that as you see in this drawing here, and I'll turn to it so it comes up here.
So there'll be groupings of color.
Right.
Okay.
It'll be
That's-
grouping, and Mandor and I work closely to not get too consistent in this 1, 2, 1,
Got
2. To kind of make it have a little more random play, and that's what will happen with the color as well.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And then one last question on the parking. Is there any opportunity to do a little kind of planting strip down there and have just the wheel?
There is. I'm not sure. I would ask David to give us a little response to see if.
Well, it's certainly doable. I mean, if
Yeah.
they want to commit to that much more
Labor.
I mean, obviously, maintenance, what have you, but it's doable.
I certainly think that would be something, again, a refinement that we should look at and try to take on.
I have one more question. I noticed you have the paper colors here.
Mm-hmm.
Is the concrete swell and trim or little edges called out as color, or it would just be
I
regular
intended
concrete
it
color?
as kind of natural
Okay.
buff colors. So.
So we're going to comments, Stephanie?
Just one comment about some of the windows that it looked a little pinched, where they are getting close to the gables. Here, here. It just, if you could move them over a scotch or resize or just take another look at those. I like the alternating siding patterns and selections that you have, and would encourage you to enhance with detailing to make them, give them a homier kind of feel. I would like to see this community area as a stucco, not just a concrete block, or have some sort of finish if it's a split face or something like that. If you don't want to stucco over it, those are my comments.
Thank you.
Of course, as Gary mentioned, we'd like to see how the trash is going to be accommodated. The sizes of the trees are really important. I think that particularly along the street and possibly also along the freeway, at least in some locations, it would be really nice to have some sizable trees. I think that the landscaping is really going to, other than the manipulations you've made to the architecture, which are going to be important to the project, I think the landscaping is really crucial as well. I would like to see a street elevation, at least, that not only shows a straight-on view with all the architecture, but the material and color changes clearly shown, so that we have an opportunity to better evaluate that. And as Stephanie mentioned, wherever possible, to look at additional windows to create a better street presence, to address the street in a friendlier manner. And then also, just as a general comment, that I notice looks like there's 4 units, all the same size and configuration. They're right in the middle of that street elevation. It seems like there might be better to break those up, as opposed to having 4 identical ones right in the middle there.
Instead of having 1, 2, 4, I got you.
Yeah, something different than that. 4 seems like a lot. Those are my comments.
A lot of them have to do with the sound wall for the freeway. There's an opportunity we have here that we didn't get a lot of opportunity when the freeway project was going through landscaping because of the flood zone. We have those floodgates through there, and on the opposite side, I believe they had a swale. And part of the talk of that freeway project was that they were going to have some canopy trees that were going to come over on that side of the wall. They also said that some of the vines would be happening on that side of the wall that would grow over the top. They were hoping to have something like that. And it's important because that wall is consistently tagged, and it's an entrance way to the city. And if we can get some plant growth on that wall from the backside, I think we'd have a better opportunity to cover that wall than just relying on Caltrans itself. I would like to see the palm trees used on site just because of their verticality. I understand they're Washingtonians and they may be a bit, they may need some work to get them up to snuff, but the height of them is important for a skyline feature. Also coming in the entrance to Santa Barbara, seeing some of that verticality I think helps. The community space building, I think, needs some study. It looks foreign to me because all of the architecture is siding, and it's either board and bat or horizontal siding, and then we have a CMU lean-to that is right there, just a shed roof and an opening. And I think that it should be looked at to closer match the architecture of the community rather than the proposed wall. The wall itself, I would agree with Stephanie that it should either be a split-faced wall or stuccoed or something that's a little bit more friendly than just the cinder block, if in fact what you're proposing. The other thing that I see that I think is a little harsh is in that community space that you have there. I'm not sure if that is concrete or if it is grass or if it's a landscaped area, but there's a space in front of that community space, and I was just wondering what that surface is. It's paved. And I would think that in a community of this size where they're more than likely to have some children, that an area that could have some grass or have an area where someone could walk their dog or something, there should be some area of open space, green space that is there, and I think that would be the spot that it should be at. I would not be in favor of having that area paved over. And as far as the buildings, yeah, it's a dense project, but I think it is a niche that's needed for the city, and that the project is a positive one. And look forward to seeing it again.
All right. A few additional comments. I agree with Gary that little courtyard terrace, as it's called on the landscape plan, I don't know if lawn is the right thing, but maybe some sort of a green space. If it indeed is paved, I'm a little worried that it may act as a parking area for visitors who don't know, so perhaps some bollards or something just to delineate, and also for safety for the kids if they're playing there, may be helpful there. I'm wondering if this portion of sidewalk is necessary, and if that should just come out and end right here and allow for a little more softening in that zone for some planting. It's kind of the sidewalk to nowhere, unless there are plans to continue, but it doesn't appear that there are, so that may be eliminated if appropriate. I know there was mention of, and I'd like to see a composite elevation of this frontage also, but having this 42-inch high, I guess the wood fence right up against the sidewalk, maybe a little stark. So I don't know if there's any way we can get ourselves a 8-inch to a foot planter in front of that, just to plant something at the base. I know it's pushing into this hedge. I don't know if that could be more upright, but maybe it's a vine on top of the fence. I don't know, something to soften that facade there along the sidewalk. I think it's just not very pedestrian friendly. And I think that's about it.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I think I agree with most of the comments of my fellow board members. I want to commend the applicants for doing as much as they have done with under such strict limitations. So I think it's a commendable project in that regard. I think the general approach of your variations in the forms and colors and materials, given the limitations that you do have, is definitely a good one. I agree that it would be nice to get as much landscape material in the project as possible, and that we would be really most focused on the street elevation. So I'd like to go to the board for a motion. We can take action at this point if you feel that's justified.
Mr. Chair. Well, if we make comments and ask for a continuance to come back with some additional information and restudy, how long would you like?
A couple weeks.
2 weeks? Okay, so I'll make a motion for a 2-week continuance with the following comments. Provide a street elevation showing both material changes, details of the siding, and color. Study and show wood detailing to be residential in nature. Particularly along the street elevation, study the window configuration and sizes, and wherever possible, add additional windows to address the street. Study breaking up the grouping of 4 2-story units along the street. Show the trash enclosure and appropriate detailing. In general, landscaping is crucial, and tree sizes should be sufficient to begin breaking up and enhancing the project from its initial installation. Study enhancing the community building to better blend with the architecture of the rest of the project, which may include some enhancements to the wall material or other material changes. Study changing the courtyard terrace to be a green space. Study eliminating the sidewalk between the southerly edge of the driveway and the sound wall at the freeway, or to whatever extent that goes, the southerly edge of the driveway, period. Study moving either the, so I'm going to modify this last comment slightly to because I appreciate Chris's comment about this the fencing at the street. I'm wondering if there might be some locations where it could be set back or altered to provide some additional variation in the way that street and the hedge addresses the street, so that maybe there could even be differences in planting or something to break up that what's now just a uniform hedge and 42-inch high fence right at the sidewalk. So study variations in the hedge and fencing that occur along the sidewalk at Punta Gorda. I don't think I missed anything, but if anyone...
Do we have a second for that motion? Second by Stephanie. Under discussion.
Under discussion, would the maker of the motion and the seconder want to entertain anything about vining that the sound wall?
Yes, we could include that. Study adding vines to the existing sound wall.
Question.
I'd like to speak to that.
Sure.
Actually.
Come
yeah.
after you.
Okay.
I mean, it's their property. Are we okay with doing that?
Well, you start growing vines up on this side and over, then whose purview is it to maintain them on the freeway side?
There's also the question of, this is a very tall wall to begin with, getting those vines up and over with the canopy that you're introducing as well, and not having those grow into the canopy, and it's problematic.
I might be wrong, but I do believe that there are ficus pumila planted at the base of the wall on the freeway side, so ultimately it's going to be a green wall, ultimately.
I think
So I think that might address some of your concerns, perhaps.
Okay, so we'll accept the motion as stated.
The only other addition which was mentioned was possible safety measures for the courtyard terrace in the form of bollards or something to that effect.
Can I make one other comment just for the benefit of the board? I think the reason that we sort of anticipated that maybe this should be a hard surface is that none of these units, all 40 of them, have patio space anywhere. So short of the little passive open space that we've shown here, there really is no other place to gather. And we do have this wall here, overhead of palms and what have you. We would be planting vines on the... And so I really felt like, you know, they need some hard surface. I mean, if you've got... There's 40 units, there's going to be a lot of people living here. So I think there'd be some value into keeping that as sort of a terrace patio space that people could actually gather there or have barbecues, perhaps. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to a lawn, which is just going to get trampled in the real world.
End up being a dirt.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So, I mean, I can appreciate what the board's after, but I mean, we could have planting along the edge and then planting on the walls around there. So, but I do think, given the nature of the site that, and the anticipated uses, that it might be better served to having a nice embellished pavement of some sort. But that's just my thoughts.
There was some discussion from Keith earlier about the potential of the driveways, adding some greenscape in the driveway area.
It's okay for the maker of the motion. Why don't we just have a general comment to look for opportunities to introduce additional plant material? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, 500 Fowler Road. From last time.
What, say again? No, it's entirely possible, sure. Pavers. Yeah, maybe that's a good point. We'll look at it both ways. Yeah. Just go.
Give it to Tom. Thank you, guys.
Okay, well, the next applicant's getting ready here. I'm just going to read the motion from the last meeting. This was December 12th of last year. Continued indefinitely to full board with a comment to study screening and paving options to visually blend the generator and muffler equipment into the surroundings.
So is that the staff comments?
That was the motion.
Oh, okay.
That was the motion from the board last time, so if we can have you state your name and give your presentations.
Yeah, my name's Owen Thomas. I'm with the Airport Department, and this is Tia Van Lagerenberg with PMSM Architects. And based on what you just said, we did study some options for that, and just wanted to show those to you now.
Good afternoon. So I'm just going to start off. We've got some existing photographs on the front sheet. I added just a couple more to kind of start an introduction here. Initially, when we went through the approval process of the airport project, there was lots of discussion about how much do we treat the backside of the building, and everybody got to the agreement that this is the working side, this is the airport side, this is with a lot of equipment and activity is ongoing, and that we will spend a lot of effort on the front side to screen all of that equipment, and that you don't see it from the land side. But from the air side, I think everybody was in agreement that there's a lot going on, even movable equipment, as you can see from these photographs that we're trying to demonstrate. So with that in mind, I think we are all in agreement that the actual electrical screen and the muffler on top is really not that sightly, and it is also visible from inside, not from the south window, which is the one that's facing the ocean, but from the very far, it's on the west side, but on the south end of the building, and through that window you are actually able to see that muffler clearly. From the air side, of course, everything is visible. There's no way to really screen any of this. And so as you would to walk down the sky bridge back from the plane, you see those mufflers again, and, they get quite close. But there's also a lot of other things that's visible. So that's kind of what we're trying to, it's not possible to screen absolutely everything. It is the airport. That's what's happening on that side. So we're going to try and address the concern with the muffler on top and ways of screening that specific element. And I mean, we take some comments as other ideas that you may have. One of the initial thinking was just to go to the manufacturer, see what they have as far as screening this go. They have sent us an example of where they've just basically did a sheet metal all the way around and cover it up that way. It's not really provided by them, it's done by somebody else. So we thought we'll take that a step further and look at painting this as well. You know, the color of this unit, the whole electrical generator is slightly different to the other equipment that's out there, which is more like silver and gray. You know, maybe painting it and trying to just kind of let it blend in a little bit more, this mustard color that it's now. And so before I get into all the more designed options, we looked at, you know, using some manufacturer-provided screening materials. They do come in different forms, you know, maybe coming up with something that's a little more decorative. Put it over there. That we can create a screen that's not solid necessarily, but more transparent in a way, but still eventually hiding the bigger picture. And the idea is also, this doesn't necessarily block the view to the ocean, but I think if you put something solid on there, it just makes the whole unit even feel a little bigger. So having something that's a little more transparent or translucent will help a little bit in that. Some of the designed options that we looked at, first of all, was to kind of take a look at what we have out there already as far as screening goes, and that's the last two pictures on here. We have the mechanical screen on the land side of the building, where we did, this was actually a prefabricated, I mean, it's custom, but out of concrete. The detailing of that is on the last page of how we did that. So we thought out of metal, again, I mean, we have to attach something now to the existing unit, so keeping it a little, just how, the constructability of that, so by welding or bolting something to the top side, which would not be a problem. Doing a similar, matching almost the dimensions of that screen, but doing this out of a metal panel, and again, painting everything out so it starts blending in. So that was the first, and these are just some 3D views of what you would actually see from the window where it's the most visible. And then, of course, if you were to come around, just kind of giving you a little more view from the actual sky bridge, and this is just an aerial view. And then we just kind of played on that theme of doing different patterns and different applications of what we could do with the screening, something that's a little simple, something that's even more decorative. We could go either way, or like I said, we could just use something which this would look almost solid from a distance because it's so small, but it would still be somewhat transparent. And so those are some ideas we want to put out here. The paint color that we want to propose is either matching the other equipment that's out there that's got the silver finish, or doing something that matched the building color, which this is the actual building, which is a little warmer white. So, comments?
Thank you. So, questions from the board, Chris? Oh, excuse me. Jump the gun. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this project? Seeing no one, go to the board for questions. Chris?
No questions.
Gary?
Was the possibility looked at to relocate the mufflers location on rather than being on the top? If they could be piped towards the side, was that something that was looked at or was asked by from the manufacturer?
No, it hasn't been asked, and I can definitely ask that from them.
I know that in some generator applications that the mufflers do get repiped. So
Yeah, I imagine it probably could be done. The question would be where we'd put them.
Yeah.
okay.
Any more questions?
Yes. I noticed, of course, that you're showing the screen, the dimensions of the generator, as opposed to just enclosing the muffler. Is it possible to reduce it so it's just enclosing the muffler
It's definitely possible since it's not solid. That was kind of our approach to do the whole width of it.
Okay. There's not access problems or dimensional clearances or something like that would prevent you? Okay. That's it. Thanks.
Stephanie? I have no questions, comments. Chris?
Well, now that Gary mentioned
Put a vine on it?
Yeah. Now that Gary had mentioned the relocation, I remember asking that at the last meeting if those mufflers could be brought down to the side, maybe on the opposite. So that would be one thing to explore. And I like Kirk's idea of sort of shrinking just to get around the muffler so it's not appearing so large. In terms of the schemes, I think C is a little too decorative and it doesn't need to be. I'd be more inclined to go with A because it does match existing feature on the other side of the building, but I think those openings could be a little smaller. I think on the opposite side of the building, if you took that same scale and brought it around here, it's just going to be too large, so I think the scale needs to be right, but I'm inclined to go with scheme A.
Thank you.
That's it.
Gary?
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at that muffler, and it has a rather large flange on the bottom of it. I would say an 8 or 10 inch. And to get an 8 or 10 inch flange on there and an 8 or 10 inch 90, we're only going to reduce the height of that by about 50%. It's still going to be quite high. It's still going to be large diameter pipes. So even given that, I don't think that's going to be our best aesthetic solution. Looking at the plans that you have here, I think scheme A is probably our best solution, and I think the whole covering of the whole unit, rather than just a portion of it, kind of gives it more purpose. So I don't think that just covering it around the mufflers and cutting it short a little bit would look as nice as what you proposed here. So just a color scheme, matching the building for the entire generator and that screen, I think it's okay as proposed scheme A.
Thank you. Kirk?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Can we look at the photos again at the front? Yeah, I was just going by particularly this photo where it looks like you're closest to it.
It moves, though, depending on where they load by test. But that's probably as close as you'll get.
Or maybe this is closer, but you're only seeing part of it and from an angle. This, you're looking at it straight on, and you also have the ocean view behind it, whatever view you're capturing there. And I don't know, to me, it just seemed like if it just contained that, then you're not, there's this little bit of, I think that's a bluff right there, right? So you're not, instead of doing all of that, which then makes the whole thing look much larger. It just makes sense to me to keep it the size of the muffler as much as possible, keep it as tight to it as possible. At the same time, I suppose there is some architecture here. Is this an opening or is this a grill? What is that?
Yeah, that's the existing. You can actually see it on there. It's just the existing grill that's on there.
Yeah, it's pretty subtle, but maybe you just come up right there, so it looks like it does make sense in relation to the machinery below, as opposed to landing right on top of the grill, and then maybe since this looks like it's only 18 inches or something, maybe you leave it at that corner, but then keep this really tight to that corner if you can. Just
You can definitely study that.
that seems to make sense to me anyway. And I think when you talk about painting, are you talking about painting the generator as well?
Yes.
Okay. I suppose matching the color of the building makes the most sense. Although you're not really seeing the building behind it at all. Or are you?
Yeah, this would be the
Okay.
view.
Okay, right.
And, there's the building, so as you're walking through the sky bridge, you definitely do see them.
Yeah, so I think that's the best solution then, in terms of the color. Those are my comments.
Thanks.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I remember from the previous meeting, there was a lot of discussion and concern about blocking views toward Goleta Beach. And one open question at that meeting was whether or not the generator could be painted. And now the applicants found out that it can be painted, so that's a good improvement. So one other option that you might consider is just painting it whatever color you think is appropriate and not putting the screen on top of the generator. And just leave the mufflers exposed as is, given that this is on the airfield operations side of the terminal and there's lots of other machinery and equipment out there. Just another option to consider.
Thank you,
My only comment is I would paint all of these pieces of equipment out here the same color, and I would do something similar to this tan that the jetway is, and make the metal a different color, such as one you brought in. That I would say have the metal screen be a different color than the paint.
I kind of like what you've done. Of just made the equipment look like it's purposeful and blending it with the building. So I kind of like the aspect that it's a whole object and not just the functional portion to screen the muffler itself. I think the lattice work that ties in with the lattice on the building makes the most sense, and I agree with Chris's comments that you just want to study the scale of the openings and that. And I think just painting it to blend in with the building, since it is this kind of more architectural scale now, makes the most sense to me. And I like Stephanie's comments then, and just paint the rest of the equipment that same color too, and then it all kind of seems to go together. So.
And then are we talking about just the equipment in the yard now?
That's my thought, yes, since it's kind of a grouping. Okay. So.
And I will have to check on that, because I think some of them might be stainless steel and things that you don't want to paint. I'll just have to check on that. Okay.
All right, so.
I'm sorry, Mr. Keith, you're suggesting the color of the skyway, like Stephanie was saying?
No, I was saying that the color of the building, but maybe using that same color on the equipment adjacent that can be painted, so it just all looks like it's one set of objects. So with that, can we have a motion from the board?
Sure. I think we could return to the consent calendar with the refinements, but we would like, or maybe we don't. You need to add the comment about relocating the muffler now, because it's there and it would be very costly, and we're not going to really get much of a height reduction. So we'll just pass on that. Majority of the board members feel that enclosing the entire upper surface so that it appears to be a unit, a uniform rectangular box, is a preferable design. And that Scheme A, lattice work, is also preferred, but to study the dimension of the lattice to be sure that the equipment is not visible, or is at least properly screened. Majority of the board members felt the painting, the color should match the buildings, and study what other equipment in that equipment yard could also be painted the same color. I think that's it. That'd be indefinite continuance to the consent calendar.
Second on that motion. And under discussion, just to clarify, so would this be a project design approval with final approval on consent?
That's the way.
Okay, so you have that, Gloria?
Well,
Oh, so
I
or
suppose it
final.
could be a project design approval of the review after final
What are they?
and return to consent.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
One abstention. Motion carries. Thank you. So now we're on to item 3, 822 East Cannon Perdido. Setting up. This project was last reviewed June 11th of this year. Okay, can I have you state your names?
I'm Ryan Mills with DMA.
Edward DeVicente with DMA.
Courtney Miller with the Office of Katie O'Reilly Rogers.
Thank you. Most of the comments last time were more general in nature, so I think maybe perhaps if the applicant agrees, rather than going through kind of item by item, you could just give your presentation and tell us how you've addressed
Sure.
the concerns from last time.
Sure, and that's what we did. We kind of took, I was absent at that meeting, so I actually reviewed the video a couple times and really just plucked most of your comments, or hopefully all of your comments, and that's how we were planning on present, is just to address each one that way. So first and foremost, I'd like to speak to kind of the broadest topic of the siding project that then kind of pulled back to stucco when we went through our value engineering phase, and then kind of looking at this from a balanced approach, understanding your comments and all the stakeholders involved, how can we kind of pull all this together. So we went back and took a look at this project to try to bring back some of that siding feel, that texture, which we agreed did help some of those larger elevations. So let me go to elevation sheets. So we did. We made a few adjustments accordingly. What we looked at was where this project was most visible first and foremost to the public, and then from some of the views of the tenants there. And that's sort of how we kind of backed our way in to this. So what you'll notice is on Unit 12, so facing Cannon Perdido, actually let's back up. And I'll follow up with some design changes here, but this turned into an all-siding unit last time. And then one of the things we changed was the Unit 11 next door went to an all-stucco. So as part of that exercise, sort of the second thing that I felt like got stuck the most here was that stucco over stucco with the board banding detail. So we worked to remove that from the project as well. It shows up one place in the back, which, you know, if the board doesn't care for that, we can pull that as well. But so all in all, we avoided that detail altogether and introduced. So the next biggest portion on Building C, this three-story mass. So what we did was we brought back in banding, fiber cement siding to the first two levels of this project and capped it with a horizontal band detail, which we can refer to in a minute. as well as on unit or building B, the visible corner from the street. I pulled a couple graphics from our model to help demonstrate that. So we actually took this shot from the back of Unit 2, so they have the most visible view of this building. So here we've introduced those first two levels. We studied a few different options. We just felt like that kind of captured the feeling the best without going all the way up, and it still met some of our other client requirements of scaffolding and who's doing what at what levels, and so we still felt this was volunteer friendly on the first two levels, and then the professionals come in and we're doing our stucco, so it kind of worked from all angles from us. And then here's the second one, and this demonstrates this is the most public view. So the front is now a siding project apart from Unit A, which has been kind of fine-tuned all along, and then really this is that visible corner, which we wrap that whole unit all the way from the front around to the back. So those are the two places we reintroduced siding to the project. Let's see. So that's that. So as I said, the second part was eliminating that tough detail of stucco to stucco. So we have now basically scenario one is the wood siding, the wood banding. Let's see, where's the front here? So we have a detail here, the wood banding where it's siding above and below, and that shows up on the next building as well. And it shows up here on Unit 2. It wraps around the back, so siding above and siding below. The second option are now our 2 stories of siding below, capped with a band, and then one level of stucco above. And then this is that one leftover in the back side of Building C on the interior yard where we still had it, we have that banding broken there just to match that virtual building essentially in the front where we did, but we just chose to not apply it there to the back. This is, our neighbor's view, fencing, and we have trees along every yard, so screened pretty well below that point. So we felt that was still an acceptable way to treat that. And then why don't we can, as we go, we'll pull up the detail. We've developed our details as we went as well. So we ended up with 2 types of horizontal banding. There's essentially a 2-piece and a 4-piece, and this is where we really dug in and said, how can we dress this up a little more, all the while making it still simple to build. So this is our 4-piece, which has a little more movement and a few more pieces to it to create some shadow lines, and this occurs really just at the front on that Unit 2 building. But, trying to utilize some straightforward 2x pieces. And then the simpler version,
Is that what that is?
that's what that one is. And then the more simpler version, I think Gary kind of alluded to this last time, where we took our simple band and added a place for the flashing to kind of grab to and to work successfully, as well as this. So here we took a 2x4 and ripped it so both reciprocal ends can be used, so we didn't waste anything. So we looked to do some of that as well as we considered the people building this. So those are the 2 types we ended up with. And there's one area on Building B that currently you can see here, so the dimensions. So we used like a 1x12 and then a 2x4 piece ripped in half. Although currently on Building B, the banding here is a little larger. In total it's up to 16, and right now what's driving that is the thickness of these little balconies, which we're looking to, that's what our structural came back with at this point. What we're going to look to do is reduce that as much as we can, but we just wanted to tie this into that as far as the horizontal banding not breaking along the face of that project, or that building. The next comment was, Keith, you brought up the mitered corners. So we looked at that, and interestingly, we did find Hardy does offer a mitered corner piece for these projects. So we thought that was pretty nifty. But looking at all things, we kind of actually went to the corner siding just for consistency and how it worked with all of our corbels. We kind of wanted to streamline as far as how many different details we were going to be dealing with here. So we ended up going back and eliminating the mitered corner details from the project. And then the next few are the series of just taking a closer look at all the details and the little extra members, the sizes of all those. So let's start with our shade structures. 29, 21. So again, we took that look. You guys commented on the beefiness of everything, so we did that another pass, and Ed and I actually spent some time walking both neighborhoods, east and west, and kind of tried to absorb as much as we could for these horizontal bandings, some of the gable details, as well as all of these. So it was pretty informative, and kind of what we found were some few simple details that we felt added just a little more finesse to these, because the members, our sizes bulked up quite a bit, and we did notice the places where there's 2- and 3-story projects that had 4x4s, and that just kind of went away at that level. So we've beefed everything up and then added these chamfer details kind of here at where the bracket connects to the top and the base, as well as the rafter edge. And it also sort of fit with being a simple detail, but being easier to put together as far as with our volunteer labor. We felt like getting a 90-degree angle would always be a more successful production for this project. Windows, window trim. Same thing. As part of our walk through the neighborhoods, we took a pretty thorough survey of...
2x3s on that color?
Here, let's pull that up. Sorry. Trying to point out, let's see. Here, yes. Do you want me to walk through the rest of them, or did you guys be able to see that? Okay. Let's see, window trims, 23, 01, and 02. Okay. So here again, we took our little walk through the neighborhoods and assessed what was on what. And kind of where we ended up was having a consistent depth to all the casement, except for the sill, of course, with the stool, and then the apron underneath was thinner than that. But all in all, we looked at where the top casement or the head casement was proud, and that occurred occasionally, but more often than not, especially on simpler structures, we opted for this. We did increase that 1-inch overhang on each side, and then we just bumped up the apron as well.
And this will be consistent.
This is the door.
This will be consistent on both plaster and
Yes.
siding. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's just showing the door to match. Number 6, the soffits. I don't know if we need to go that, but we went through and tidied up all the details for the entry sheds and gables, and made sure we had that fiber cement board painted. We just sort of developed this and dimensioned and called out what all of our pieces are per your comments. Number 7, gable brackets, 3003. What am I looking at here? Gable brackets. Oh, okay. The line weights. Okay, so same exercise. So we beefed up all the member sizes to these brackets, and then again added proportionally the same chamfers details to these brackets, so we're consistent, when they are here or here on a porch.
So the supporting member is what size? Is that a 4x or 6x?
That's a 6x8.
Okay. And then supporting under that,
Here is a 6x6 brace. So we beefed up. We knew we were kind of on the large size, and even the fascias are large. Everything got beefed up quite a bit just because of the scale of the faces we're looking at.
And looking at the elevations, it's like you've made the locations more consistent.
Yes.
As I recall last time there was some
Correct.
variations. Okay.
Correct. And that's the other reason we went to this corner piece too. So now, that we had a few challenge with this whole project's wrapped in 1-inch foam. So we had to, even beefing up both the trim and the brackets allowed us to line all of those brackets up, so then they're structurally attached, and they're not just decorative. So the foam kind of wanted that anyway, so all things put together, we ended up beefing up everything. Paving. Paving, let's see, let's go to landscape. It's up front. So the board's desire was to solve it before we came back. So I think we're 90% there. I can't say we've solved it, but we sure tried. So Edward spent time back at the building department. We've cleaned it up with the pieces that are acceptable at this time as best we thought we could. So the big change, then I'll let Courtney answer any questions, but the big changes were this. So we have our drive aisle, and the detectable warnings that were once on the path that did seem quite absurd, but that is how we understood interpreting what the building department wanted us to do. We flipped it onto the drive aisle side. So now you have drive aisle, the 36-inch of detectable warning, and then the 4-foot clear path. So, and then from there, all the paving is consistent. So we didn't break it up before. We had this material, then detectable warning, then pedestrian pavers, then back to driveway pavers. So we kind of just said, here's sort of, it's, this course here separates basically the drive aisle, which is it a lighter paver, Courtney?
It'll be a different color.
Different color. And then we go to basically the pedestrian side, which does sort of seep into the garage, but we felt like that was the cleanest way to do that. And we, this is no guarantee, but we still feel strongly that we won't end up getting those detectable warners in the project at all. And that's sort of what we're going to be moving forward with and working with the building department over. And we did also look at the rolled curb solutions, and just for the same reasons felt practically that was just as much of a hazard for both pedestrians who would need this accessible path as is cars trying to maneuver in tight spots in close proximity to buildings. So this is where we've landed with landscape. Let's go back to Unit 12. There. And then finally, we kind of kept massaging Unit 12 facing Cannon Perdido. The few main things we did was, we kind of got feedback that the entry was working. We kind of liked how it was smaller in scale, broken down, and the porch element was at the path and closest to the drive aisle. But the work was focused here, so we did a few things. So we worked at lining up these windows and making them symmetrical. So we kind of massaged the interiors and had to move a couple bedroom and closet walls inside to make them line up and bring them inboard a little bit. And then we added this banding and did a few different studies, but because we have those energy trusses, we felt like there was a lot of forehead to these gables, so we wanted to break that up, and so we did this horizontal banding at that plate height. And then added window boxes, and then here at the bottom we introduced a little pop-out window, a little bay window of sorts. We worked really hard. This is a very tight unit in the front. It's like a mini great room. And we tried getting a kitchen window here, and there's just, because our fire closet is around the side here, there was just no way to get all of these things to logically snap into place. So we kind of doubled up this. This is where the kitchen sink is. And it was kind of a nice environment inside and provided just sort of a heavier element for this first story closest to the entry. And then this in landscape is, there's medium-sized shrubs as well as a significant tree here. So it doesn't show on the plans anymore, but we figured balance-wise that worked pretty well. Then Unit 2, subtle changes, but we dropped the banding. We used to have banding on the face of this building, and it just, the collisions and making it justified with this gable entry was challenged, as well as we lowered that gable element just to enclose that entry piece a little bit. It felt a little wide open, so we pulled it down. We're about 8 feet clear, or we are 8 feet clear under that beam. And a couple minor things, but worth noting is we added, so here's Cannon Perdido. This is that Unit 12. We added a mailbox area and sign directory / kiosk. So attached to the side of this unit alongside the accessible path. That's where Fear is most accessible, usable. Everyone would see it, and the mail service wants it to be there. And then solar. So we brought in, last chapter of our detailed book is all the solar details.
I can take this one, Ryan.
Sure.
So we have a pretty comprehensive package. It's really start to finish. You can flip through it, but it's got all the different components of the solar thermal, solar PV hybrid system, including controls, etc. So I believe it's on Echo 2 is the roof layout, which is consistent with the roof layout in our larger project drawings. On sheet 4 is the strut system. This is really kind of more engineering type information. And on number 5 is really the profile of the system and how it's connecting to the roof. So here you can see on the blow up, it's going over the shingles, and it's got a hood on the upper end, which is going to be 6 inches maximum. You can see on the right hand side is 4.8, just about under 5 inches, just above the little pads there for the struts. So it's a really low profile system that they have. They've implemented this one in hundreds of homes kind of on the West Coast. So they're confident that it's all really, really worked out. And this is being a hybrid system is when it's interesting. On Echo 6A, you'll see they use these pans underneath the panels where the solar thermal modules are at the top, and they draw that hot air up there and really boost the efficiency of the thermal panels. And so the configuration you see on 6A is what we have pretty much typically for each of ours, which is 12 total panels, two solar thermal and 2 photovoltaic, and it gives us about 2.3 kilowatts of generated electricity and probably over 65% of our hot water needs for each of the residential units. So really, really a great benefit to the future owners. The subsequent sheets are just additional details for the struts and the mounting of the rack system and how the modules themselves attach to that. Beyond that is mostly electrical, and there are a lot of cut sheets as well towards the end.
Do you have a detail that overlays that with your typical eave detail so we can see the relationship to the overhang?
We don't, but we're really always going out to the eave. Yeah, let's go. You can see it in elevation, certainly, and in the A400 series or the quarter-inch elevations. But to maximize the system and keep the 3 foot required of the ridges, we're always going down to the eave.
To the gutter?
Yes, down to the gutter. Thank you. So I can show it to you in section, but in an actually blown up detail, we don't have that drawn in.
But essentially, to keep that 3 foot requirement, just to access it, that's about the only place it can go. Short. And maybe just to wrap up is we have material boards. Turn you back on there. Here's the roof plan if you want to refer to that. And lastly, here's our material sample. So we prepared these per building, kind of sample specifying the doors, the hardware, this type of siding. Here's our light fixtures. We haven't really looked at those yet. We're doing a La Habra 2030 sand finish on all the stucco, so we were pretty happy with that, getting to 2030 on that. Window systems, shingled roofs, we are consistent with the color there. Building B kind of offers 2 different door colors, 2 different stucco colors. And then here's building C, and here's we actually do have entry, which not shows in plan well, but we do have at the entry canopies or sheds, we have these little ceiling mounted lights to match, and these wall mounted really are for the accessible path and some of the utility areas. And then here you see the color combo. So the gray buildings here and on building on building B, this unit. So we have the let's see, which one was that? La Habra Mesa Verde is our gray stucco, and then the accent pieces here on the shutters is Valspar, and the Habitat works with Valspar on all their paints. Here's our tan building on building C. Well, both here and on building C, and it shows quite differently in the light. And then we picked sort of a matching or complementary, very subtle difference, siding color to be painted. And then our green stucco is here, with then the front building being this darker time color as well as the two-tone. So this is sort of how that three-story building works. Then we have a couple door colors. So there's front door colors locked into plans, and Habitat works with, I don't know if there's a lady on the board or just a friend of Habitat that actually is a wonderful painter and artist that prepares all their doors. So this is a good launching point, but she does beautiful work, and she was looking to provide the doors for each unit. So that concludes our presentation. We were going to ask Courtney has another hearing tonight, so if we can maybe, if there's any landscape comments, maybe start with those, and she could peel away early if she needs to.
Thank you. We have public comment. Have Jace McCullough. Joyce, sorry.
Good afternoon. I'm Joyce McCullough, Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity, and we've been back and forth here a bit, and I thought it might be nice for me to just come and make a couple of comments. As you know, this project is a community-wide effort to bring safe, decent, affordable homes to 12 low-income families in our community. And we're one of the few remaining local organizations that actually provide home ownership opportunities. And we believe that the stability of owning one's home is a benefit to the community in many ways. And those benefits include a stable family that has more opportunity to become involved in the neighborhood, in the schools, in the community, with a vested interest in keeping the neighborhood safe and attractive. We find their children do better in school. And also, we have the ability now to provide for a wider diversity of families who contribute to making this a thriving community. And so, as we've already mentioned today, you know that we build these homes alongside volunteers. Professional contractors do provide oversight and contribute their expertise where it's required, but we must design our homes so that they're volunteer-friendly to build. We also seek donations from the city, which has granted us over $1 million of funding toward this project, and from local donors. So we feel we must be responsible for the way we spend the money entrusted to us. And that said, I think that using simple, cost-effective materials, I believe we've created, with the help of our very capable design team, a pleasing group of homes that will fit into the neighborhood and will provide comfortable, affordable living space for each of the 12 families that will live there. So I just, as you consider our project today, I just hope you'll keep our program principles in mind and allow us to move forward with the building department. Thank you for all your comments.
Thank you. All right. We'll bring it back to the board, and as requested, if we could have any landscape questions first. Chris?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think at this point the landscape has been properly vetted. Most of the issues were with the architecture, although I am still having trouble with this detectable paver thing. I know you're not quite there yet, but I guess the question I have is, you mentioned that you may be able to have those eliminated. And if that's the case, would it be possible to reduce the width of that entry walk and get more planting in front of the building? In front of, I guess, the building A, I think it is.
I believe if we have the ability to remove the detectable warning, we still can't reduce the width of that accessible walk. So we're pretty much set in stone as far as the amount of planter space that we have available. And I've really tried to just maximize as much as we can the plant material in those areas, just so we can, luckily we have full soil depth, so we're not limited by that. So we can get some larger plantings in there wherever possible.
Yeah. So, Chris, we could potentially squeeze out a few more inches out of the driveway. The driveway technically is wider than it needs to be in most areas. However, it was mostly set by all of our maneuvering in and out of garages. So they're really,
Because it appears that if I'm reading this right, that it's basically, it looks like a 7-foot wide walkway of 2 different materials heading into the site.
Yeah,
including the detectable paver says 36 inches.
Correct.
Okay.
And perhaps, that's something we're putting on the table with the building department. Reducing that is obviously the first and foremost, if not getting it out of the way altogether.
Right.
And they were open, so Ed met with them, and then we're going to follow up. They kind of were open to more suggestions, I think, because we've been pushing this so far along. So I think they're looking to work with us.
Let me clarify that. They really weren't open to more suggestions. We had talked about a rolled curb option, but neither felt comfortable was a potential tripping hazard, specifically at nighttime in that area to meet the separation definition. So they're definitely required in the current code. There's been changes in the code, but it's yet to see if any implementation of that will concur or would relate to the timeline of this project. We could potentially ask for an alternate to reduce the width, but the coded language is very specific to 36 inches, so that would just be at the discretion of the building official, which hasn't given a preference. So initially, we had the layout where we did per transportation to maximize the vehicular area and minimize the pedestrian. But because of the conflicts it was providing, practically speaking, as we went through in the last couple of hearings of walking over those bumps, it was building department preferred what you see here as a clear pedestrian path that doesn't have the detector warnings on it. And we still are going to need transportation's blessing on that. So technically, that whole area, including the path, is all vehicular maneuvering area, pedestrian and vehicular. It's a shared driveway concept is what it is.
Okay. Do we want to do comments, or should we just
say if you have any...
okay. I guess it's an unfortunate circumstance, really, I guess is what I would say, in that as you're walking by, you have 4 or 5 different materials right there at that spot. You have 3 different pavers kind of throughout, and the detectable warning, and the concrete. So I guess I would say just keep working at it and see what you can do. I guess, can we turn to that landscape page with the L1? Do these detectable pavers have to run all the way to the front?
Yep.
Okay.
The entirety of the accessible path.
Would it make sense to have them also just do this, so we only have one material interacting with the sidewalk? I'm just trying to find ways to cut down all these different intersections of, yeah. So anyway, look into that whole concept of, it's just so unfortunate that, it's so barren along this frontage, and even these little tiny planters here, they're going to get trampled. So I would almost consider eliminating those. I think they're maybe 6 or 8 inches, it looks like, these little things. And the other question was, is it possible to center these detectable pavers on the stoop so we don't have this little T happening at almost all those intersections? But again, as Keith so aptly pointed out, I'm splitting hairs here. That's really it. I think everything else for the landscape is fine, but I'm just having trouble with that whole conglomeration of material.
If I might weigh in on the detectable paving dilemma, I think this is something that all of us have faced in our projects. I think you guys have worked it as much as you can. I think on the positive side, this is going to be one of the last items that goes into the project, and so you have plenty of time between now and then to maybe try to resolve it in the best you can. So I think it's not something that should hold us up at this point and give you the time to try to work on it further. All right. So if that's it for the landscape, questions and comments, we go to the architecture. Stephanie, do you have any questions?
Yes. Are there any places where the siding, excuse me if I missed it on this explanation, but are there any locations where the siding changes, the material changes when it turns a corner?
No.
No. Okay. And could you review again briefly why it is you chose the stucco for the upper band on the interior building?
There's a couple reasons. One, we studied just through sketch just different options, and we liked the kind of addition to texture and that rhythm closer to the pedestrian level. I mean, this is really how people experience the project, or as you pass through it. So we wanted that to be closer to the experience, one. Two, technically or logistically speaking, that was what volunteers are used to and can do. The stucco system was going to be professionally done, so volunteers, and we don't want them on the third story scaffolding anyway. So kind of all those things helped us arrive there.
Okay. I noticed in this image that this it looks like back here this belly board turns the corner.
Yes.
But here it doesn't.
Correct.
Is that the only place it doesn't, or are there other places where it doesn't?
This is the one where, and this was just that last move because it was crashing into this. I mean, there's a couple parts. This was higher originally, but feeling too large of an opening kind of on the face of the building. And even just now, as we got to flashing and how we would put that together, it just was becoming so messy. We wanted to eliminate it here only.
All right. I've started to go through the details, but can you direct me to where the typical eave detail is? Is there a consistent eave detail throughout, and where is that?
The scheduling then.
Okay. So you've got an exposed outrigger. The size is not indicated. Do you know what that's going to be?
Not yet. It's a structural coordination item that we are still with the truss manufacturer. They come in a little later, so we haven't resolved that yet.
Okay. All right. What kind of windows are you using? Are they?
There's the sheet right there. We call out the.
If we turn to the detail, actually, I think that shows it well. Shows it pretty well.
Well,
this is a Simonton Daylight Max 7300. That's a vinyl casement.
Vinyl casement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is the possibility of going to metal just out of the range of cost for this project, or?
Cost and the energy. The insulated value of the windows is something we really want to achieve as part of the overall Title 24 package.
Uh-huh. Okay. One of the comments that was made, it looks like you addressed in many locations, but not all, was, this is going back 2 meetings, was to study eliminating these little triangular roofs as opposed to this shed. And I noticed there's some you haven't. Did you just feel like they were too critical to the design that you couldn't? Or?
We looked at that, and that was a couple meetings ago, so we did study that, and we liked the opportunity to try to distinguish some front doors differently from building to building, and we kind of had a methodology to do so. So on building, here, we just wanted to differentiate from here, and this siding and trim and detail package really shows up here, so we try to be logical about it, as well as front of building Let's go.
So it just, it
It was a desire. We looked, could we go there if that's where we had to go?
Okay.
Sure. But
All right.
it was a desire to differentiate a little bit.
okay. Those are my questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Gary.
Just some questions on the same lines that Kurt was asking about the windows. Is the color going to match the trim?
Mm-hmm.
The color of the vinyl, is that going to be
Similar in color to the trim.
We're trying to match. I mean, we don't have the actual sample when we do get it. I mean, we're submitting the calla lily as the color. It's a subtle off-white, which we try to match digitally through our screens. But what we can do is, submit that we can color adjust so we do match. The intent is to match.
The intent is that it's the same color palette.
Yes,
as that.
absolutely.
Okay. Then the other question I have is, your drawings are, I didn't look at the window details, the window schedule, but it indicates that you've got some divided lights, 8, 9 divided lights on these windows. Are those the kind that are plant-on on the outside?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have a cut sheet for those or no?
We just call it the brand and type here, and then
Okay.
just refer to that.
All right. I think that is it for my questions.
Okay, I don't have any questions, so why don't we jump into comments, Stephanie?
I'm a little concerned. Overall, I like the improvements that you guys have made, and the detailing has gotten there.
Mm-hmm.
The only concern I have moving forward is the color of the green colors, and they're, especially where they're in close proximity to one another.
This dark green with this kind of more of a sagey green concerns me in elevation A202, but I think it's something that can be worked on. If there's any choices that you guys can have with regards to these mullions and the plant-on mullion types, it would be nice to see some variation in the windows. Perhaps more of a craftsman-y kind of feel, if that's an option that's offered with those windows, with that window manufacturer. That's it for me.
Sure. So I'm just going to tag on to the window comment. I feel deflated by finding out that you're going with vinyl windows and plant-on mullions. And my own feeling is that something different, something nicer should be used minimally at the street-facing and parts of the building that are visible from the street. And since you've worked so hard at creating these, this scenario which is breaking up the buildings, I think that that could be successful architecturally. They could be a different color. The mullions could be a different configuration. And so the fact that they were different materials would not be would be enhancement rather than a detraction from the project. I've seen many vinyl window installations, and they just don't look like other windows. Especially over time, the glass starts to warp, the mullions start to fall off, and it's just not appropriate for street frontage on a project of this size. And then in going over the details, I could see you're still in process on the details, and well, let me also preface this by saying that what you've done with the street elevation is a vast improvement on that the westerly building. Yeah, I think it's working now, and the shift was significant, and I really appreciate the effort that you put into changing that, radically changing it from what it was. So you're definitely to be commended for that, and I think the project is coming. It's nearly there. I think it's really just a matter of some details and material shifts and minor items, but I really think you guys are on the verge of having a working project here. I do think the triangular roofs should be eliminated, the small ones, because they're reminiscent of a colonial style when they're that small, and that having shed roofs over the entries throughout is going to be a much better solution. On the details, and I realize this is you're working with trusses, so there's an issue there that you may not have much to say about what this top chord is, but a 2x4 exposed eave with a 2x10 fascia, I think, is going to look awkward because of the difference in the dimensional difference. And then also the way you've detailed the gutter here, it looks like it's also like 8 inches deep. I realize you're only going to need a 4-inch or 5-inch gutter there, so it's just not drawn properly to scale. But if you end up with a 2x4 exposed rafter, I think a 2x6 or 2x8 fascia is going to look more appropriate. And then as I started to go through the details, there's still some variation in dimension. For example, this gable end roof projection shows 2x8 rafters. Okay. And shows 4x8 and 4x4 brace, and then elsewhere you're talking about 6x. Unless that's deliberate because of the different location and it's consistent on that building, I think that's what I'd be looking for is, consistency and a way of course the details will, I know, be tied in, but we need to see that the evidence that there's that consistency in member size and detailing with the wood members. And then also, let's see, it's 2303, little planter box detail. I think, this kind of curvature, corbel detail is really more Hispanic in nature, and I think with the style that you're working with, that just squaring it off or doing a little angle cut, a simplified thing, and just avoiding the curves is also going to help the project. And then again, 2905 shows a 2x6. So I've seen a 2x8, a 2x6, and a 2x4 eave, and depending on where I look in the details. So again, that consistency is going to be important. And then 4x4, 4x6, 6x6 in terms of corbels. So all of that needs to be resolved and consistent. I think that that belly board that doesn't turn the corner, I think you should just eliminate that. Especially, that's a really important corner, very visible, and I think it's okay to just have a straight 2-story facade without the belly board there, since it's awkward to turn the corner. I'm concerned about, although I'm not 100% opposed to the fact that you've got stucco at the upper floor, at the 3rd floor, just because with traditional architecture, stucco typically would indicate masonry. And it's a heavier part, a heavier material, and therefore would be at the base or at the lower floors as opposed to being at the upper floors. So I wonder if there's a way to study that so it's still consistent with your building program, but not putting it up high. I don't know how to resolve that because I don't know all the details of your program, but I have a concern about that. Those are my comments.
Thanks, Gary.
I appreciate the changes that you made and all the work that you did to come to this meeting today. I do like the new entrance on the, I would say, the western front building. I would like to see the fenestration centered between the door and the opening. Right now you've got the window slammed up against the door on that front elevation, and maybe you can review it with your structural of where that strong wall goes, but the one inside the porch itself. So if we could get that window centered between the door and everything, I think it'd be a little bit more successful. The other thing is the mullions. If you're not going to use true divided light, they really tend to look very cheap. And I don't think you get the look that you're looking for with that type of plan on. And I would recommend not getting the divided light altogether and just using plain windows. And I still think that with the proposed trim that you added around the window, I think it would be successful. It's true what was said about the vinyl windows not holding up or not looking right, but given the nature of the project and given the area that you have, the finances that you have to support this type of project, I can agree with using the vinyl windows, and especially with the effort that you made to trim them out. So understanding that the vinyl windows are not the best choice, I still think that they're acceptable, and that as long as the color trim is adequately matched or closely related to it, then I think they can be successful. And that's my only comments. I think that the sizes and the detail of the sizes, Kurt does have some validity towards that there should be some consistency towards that, and I would agree that perhaps that should be studied or should be finished, but I think it's ready to move along. Thanks.
Chris, any further comments? Yeah, I think you guys have come a long way from where we were last time in making the detailing more cohesive and consistent throughout. That was our major concern last time, so I think you've done a really good job. I think the development of resolution finally of this street unit here is good because these openings are at the plain back underneath the overhang. I'm not concerned about the lack of symmetry there. I kind of share the board's concerns about the mullions on the vinyl. I think given that you've got trim and everything, I think the vinyl windows are acceptable given your overall project limitations, but I think probably they would be fine without the mullions. On the stucco up high, I think I share a little bit of the concern there, but I think maybe that could be just resolved with stronger variation in color. I know that you're looking for some, you're going in that direction. So maybe tweaking that a little more so that they're obviously different materials rendered differently. I think that could take care of that. I agree with Gary. I'd like to see a motion that would move you guys forward in the process, and at the same time pick up a few of the little items that the board has concern with, particularly just getting kind of the dotting your I's and crossing your T's on the detailing as far as getting all the sizes consistent. I think you've been able to do it on the elevations, but just kind of that last level of comfort for us. So I look for a motion from the board to move you forward and address those concerns.
I wasn't here last time, so I'm going to moderate some of my own views. See, I'm going to send you back to the consent calendar. I guess we'll make a motion for a final approval with return to the consent calendar to address the board's comments. Can we do that? Is that illegal?
Yes, you can do a final approval of the project with details to return to consent.
Okay.
I think that's right. Very specific on the details that go to consent.
Yeah. Well, part of the problem is we don't have the details tied in to the elevation, so it makes it difficult to really study them with any accuracy given the time limitations that we have. They're on there? They're in there? Okay. All right. So we'll leave that, the burden. There they are. Look at that.
Sorry, we didn't
Okay.
correct you there.
Yeah. All right. So the comments would be, before I go on, can we get a straw vote? Is the majority of the board in favor of allowing the vinyl windows for the whole project to go forward?
And if they don't include the mullions.
I think mullion-free vinyl windows are.
Okay, so I see three. There's three. Okay, all right. Study eliminating the mullions. Study a consistency between the size of the exposed eave and the proposed fascia. Particularly on detail 23, or let's say eliminate the Spanish corbel on detail 2303. Study the fascia size on 2903. Study consistency with other eave details that show different eave sizes on, for example, on 2905, which shows a 2x6. Study consistency in corbelling and supporting member sizes, such as on detail 2911. Question. So the electrical fixture that you've shown is not the one that you are going to use? Is that what you said? Or is that the one that you are going to use?
These are. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
There's two types. There's wall-mounted, and then on the other sheets is the ceiling-mounted.
Okay. All right.
Then I would like to hear about the gable entry pieces, how the board feels collectively, which way we should move on those.
Yeah, my own feeling is that the project would be enhanced without those small gable end roof or entry projections, and that they should be shed roofs instead. So I'm going to add that to the comments. Eliminate the belly board that does not turn the corner. Did I say that already? I also didn't see a detail for the planter boxes. Is there one? Okay, so provide a detail for the planter boxes. That's the motion, unless someone wants to add to it.
Kirk.
Do we have a second?
You want to second it first and then
Yes.
I can comment? Okay.
We have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay.
With suggestion that to kind of simplify the motion with regard to the eave detailing, if you just say what you would like to see, say a minimum of a 2x6 eave members, and I don't have a problem with the fascia being slightly different, but maybe 2x4s is a little too small. So and they can still use 2x4 members on the trusses, and you can just do a plan on eave member. You know, if you say you want to see a minimum size on that,
Can you come up with
I think
specific points then, so that we can put that in the motion?
Say eave members have a minimum 2x6.
I'd be fine with that. That's
It's kind of
feasible for you.
The poster
It is-
reducing the fascia. Can we study that and just bring that back?
Yeah.
It's hard for us to answer that on
Okay.
Under discussion?
I was wondering if we could get a straw vote on the board about the triangular overhangs on the entry, how the rest of the board feels about that. I for one, think that they're all right. So,
Well, how many members of the board feel that it's necessary that the gable entry canopies be eliminated?
The small ones. Okay. So we can eliminate that comment then.
I guess, do you want to mention anything about the paving? Or
Yeah,
is that
can we-
just end up being what it is?
Can we encourage them to
Under discussion, yeah, why don't we say
encourage
it's encouraged to pursue
alternatives.
the alternatives for the detectable warning pavers. We'll wait long enough that the gable get incorporated into the state code. All right, any more under discussion? In case we have a motion, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
and I think the 4.8 inches profile of the PV is probably that's nice. Yeah, I think it's nice.
Okay, we have our next item, 1025 East Coda Street. This is a second review. The project was last reviewed on May 29th of this year. So I'll just read the motion from the last meeting, concept review of 529. The board was in support of the general site plan and project layout, provide photos of adjacent neighboring structures for window privacy. The overall mass, bulk, and scale are supported. Study the cantilever of the front unit along the driveway. Study the fenestration and develop a cohesive, unified strategy for window placement and design. Study the neighboring structures for similar style, particularly for parapet detailing, window awnings, and etc. A majority of the board felt that the standing seam roofing is not compatible, provided alternative roof materials. provide a preliminary landscape plan that includes a paving design and indicate trash and recycling locations on the plans. So with that, your name for the record.
Sure. My name is Raymond Costantino. I'm the owner of the property and also the designer of the building. So I was here on May 29th and presented this project. It's a single-family home with an accessory unit, total 1,800 square feet, and it's on an R2 lot. And coming back to share my revisions.
Would you like to just go down the list one at a time? And just
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Why don't we go that the photos of the adjacent neighboring structures?
Sure. So here are the photos of the adjacent neighboring structures. This is the house that's to the right of the building, or the actual east side of the building. Sorry. And so this is the house that is right here. And so I do. So on this side, there's a 5-foot high fence, and so you can't necessarily see the house itself. But and then to the rear of the property, there's a back fence and then some trees, and you see the roof of the house in the back.
Okay. All right. Thank you. How about the cantilever on the front unit at the driveway?
Sure.
Take a look at that.
I'm just going to go to the elevations. So the cantilever in question was right here. And so what I did is I basically created more of a pop-out on that side of the building so that it matched the back cantilever, and just put a shed roof on it. And so I have some renderings, and on the renderings you can see it's right here. So that the front of the building is a little more narrow, and it doesn't have that more modern projection on the side here. So it's just this pop out with the shed roof.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Why don't you walk us through the fenestration layout?
Sure. So this is the front elevation. And so I basically, what I did is I toured the neighborhood to get a sense of what was out there. And in addition, I looked at my own fenestration and on the different elevations, and basically picked one or several that I thought were what I wanted, and replicated them on different facades. And so I'm basically going with a 2x4 size of a window, and then and just replicating it at different places where I need the windows. And so on the front, there's grids on top. There's a smaller window on top, and there's grids on the top and the front. And the same 2x4 windows then replicated on the side with the small window on top. Here on this side, it's the same 2x4 window with the small window on top, and then here it's just shown as 2x4. And so that's the cohesion or consistency that I'm going for, is in that dimension and type of window. It would be a casement window, aluminum clad, painted a dark gray.
Just walk us through some of the detailing that you picked up from the neighboring structures. Looks like there's things in the parapets.
Sure. One of the things that I did incorporate, I'm talking about the front facade anyway, one of the things I incorporated is a front entry. And so similar to other houses in the neighborhood with a front porch, what I have is an entry with a shed roof above, and then above that, or right behind that, there's a parapet wall. The parapet wall is going to screen in the solar panels that are on this flat roof above the front secondary unit, and so the roof is, instead of being standing metal, which is initially what I proposed, it's going to be an asphalt roof, dimensional comp, and there's also some glass block, kind of decorative focal point at the end of the entry, since the door is actually on the side. There's railing that I'm also proposing, and what I did is I looked at some railing that I found examples of in the neighborhood that I liked, that was a little more geometric in style. And so it would be railing that's, iron that's powder coated, and that railing would be shown at the front for at the front entry, but also at the courtyard, and also the balcony in the back, right here, and back and up here. Yeah. So. I think, and so the front of the unit, or the front unit, has the parapet wall with the small kind of decorative features on top of the parapet that's similar to houses across the street, and also other decorative features that are also in the parapet wall. And I can kind of show the photographs of that. These are the houses across the street, these two houses. Close-ups. This is the one exactly across the street.
That's asphalt shingle.
It is an asphalt shingle roof, yeah.
A preliminary landscape plan?
I do. So one of the things that came up at the last meeting is coming up with also a pattern, not a pattern, but basically a walkway that goes through the, walkway that's designated on the driveway that takes you to the back unit. And so I designated that on the driveway where the walkway would have a change in color in the pavers that would take you to this back unit, which is the primary unit. So the colors in the pavers would change along this kind of this route. The pavers would be the same in the back patio as well as the front walkway. The yard has a lot of fruit-bearing trees, particularly in the back, dwarfed varieties of orange trees and avocados and things like that. There's a small raised bed vegetable garden that's designated for the back as well. Also, a waste, recycle, and compost bin area in the back for the primary unit, and then another one on the side of the house for the front unit. On the front of the house, there's some small trees flanking both sides of the entry walkway, and then a selection of different flowering plants that are drought tolerant for the front as well as the side setback along the driveway, and so that's pretty much the landscape plan, the idea for the landscape plan.
Okay, I think that hits all of our comments. Are there any other points that you'd like to make?
See if I covered everything. That is, I think I covered everything. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to open it up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address this item to the board? Seeing no one, we'll close that portion and go to questions. Stephanie?
No. Gary?
Question for staff. Trash recycling, rain barrels, can they be in the setback?
Nope. I was going to jump in with a couple of zoning comments. Yeah. trash enclosures, bins, et cetera, can't be in the setbacks, and neither can the shed in the back corner.
Okay.
The dog run, if it's on grade, that and a fence, that could be in the setback. Another minor comment about zoning compliance on the front entry. The face of this building is at the setback, and the zoning ordinance only allows a front yard encroachment of 3 feet by 3 feet. So these little walls or whatever next to the front steps would not be allowed. The steps can be 3 by 3. Plus, there can be a little allowance for the area underneath the handrail.
So these are the walls on either side of the step. So I'll omit those.
Yeah, because that
Okay.
whole unit is bigger than 3 by 3.
Okay.
If they were narrower, would they be okay?
Well, the code allows you a 3 by 3 encroachment plus whatever area is under the stairs. So in other words, your steps could be a little bit wider than 3 feet, so that it was 3 feet inside the railings.
Is that up to 18 inches?
Well, you can. The first step can encroach because you can have an encroachment that's no taller than 10 inches. So you're allowed one step without including that in the 3 by 3 dimension.
So just a point of clarification. If I had walls, retaining walls in the front setback, they have to be under 42 inches. If I did a retaining wall planter, could I do that attached to the house, or is that?
Well, yeah, that wouldn't necessarily be limited to 42 inches for a wall, unless it was within 10 feet of the driveway or 10 feet within the front property line or right-of-way.
It looks like there's another way to resolve that without eliminating it.
Okay.
In other words, if it was a wall instead of a podium.
Okay. So it's like a planter. Okay.
Well, I asked the zoning staff if we could consider these to be walls so that they could encroach into the front yard, and they said no.
So, but if they were 8 inches wide and were like a raised planter.
Yeah, I could run that by the zoning staff.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions, Gary? Chris?
How do you access the dog run?
You access the dog run through the. So right here, you just kind of walk through here.
So is that a very low retaining wall?
Yeah, it is a low retaining wall, and so the idea would be that the dog would jump up the retaining wall into a dog run. So yeah.
Okay, so that's low enough and that can happen.
Yeah.
Okay, and then in the front yard, you have an area labeled decomposed granite. Is that sort of a patio space?
I was thinking of it as just a multi-purpose space where if you wanted to put a chair and you could sit there underneath the tree, you could do that.
Okay. And then can you explain the passion vine screen that's at the very end of the driveway and towards the back?
I wanted to do some passion vines on a fence. It would be like Yeah, green screen, basically, with passion vines on it.
Without the trademark. Okay, that's all I have for questions. Oh, there is one more. Future pool location?
Mm-hmm.
That's
the thinking, is that one day there'd be a pool there, and so I just wanted to put that in there.
Okay, that's all.
Okay, I don't have any questions myself. So comments, Chris?
I guess going right back to the future pool, you might consider placing the trees so that they wouldn't have to be dug up later. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
Just a thought. The decomposed granite patio in the front, I think, is fine, but it would be nice to have maybe a little bit of foundation planting so it's not just DG right up against the house. It looks really bare
Okay.
when you're viewing from the sidewalk area.
Okay.
And then, we'd also like to see what you're doing with the parkway and what that existing tree, looks like there's an existing tree there, and what type it is, and also what type of planting will be in that parkway.
Okay.
And also if there will be any planting along the northern property boundary. I think that's the north.
Right here.
No, then bottom of the page.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
There's an existing fence there, so nothing was planned. But I can consider that.
Yeah, I think on both side property, you might consider a vine here and there on the fence, just to kind of soften it up just a little bit.
Okay.
And then, of course, the shed and the trash bins need to be relocated outside the
So this one I'll
setbacks.
relocate. I mean, I have a primary one here, and I added a second one, but I'll relocate this. And then this, it just can't be in the setback. Okay. Neither this one and then this rain barrel also have to be removed. Okay.
Yeah.
That's in the setback too.
Oh, this one as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So you have to figure something out there.
So a
but-
3-foot setback all the way to the back. Okay.
Is it 3?
So isn't it a 6-foot setback?
In the backyard?
Okay. Something to look into.
I'll double check with you then. Okay.
Gary, comments?
Yeah. I'm still not sure which direction the architecture's going, and I think the fenestration has still got me confused. So I remember making a comment about the clear story windows in the back, and after the photographs that you gave us, I would ask that you reconsider those clear stories in the master bedroom. I don't think it fits the design of this building.
So even though it's in the back of the building, I'm sorry.
Finish my comments. And as well as the railing that you chose, the horizontal railing, I don't think that the photos that you are representing here also, I think, clash with your particular design. So I think that I want to hear what the rest of the board members say about it, but I think that they need some study as well. So that's it, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Gary. Kurt?
Thanks. I think I'm okay with those windows because they are at the back. But I do have some comments about some of the other windows. Overall, I like the design, and I appreciate the improvement, the movement we've made. And I just, because this element is so tall now, that maybe, and that it's so distinctly different from this. I mean, I think this is a nice composition that's going on here now, even with the parapet height jogging like that. But maybe this should be raised up a little so that it fits better in the rectangle that it's in. It's just a thought. I think that the eave detail and the rake and the way that's done can really enhance this building as opposed to making it look just low cost. So in other words, like a 4x rafter, for exposed rafter, even if it's just a small eave, it looks like you are going to expose the eave there a little bit. So I'd like to see a nice detail there. And then these, where you've got these tall windows at the corner, I think you need in my view, a little more dimension from the corner, just to, again, balance it out with the composition in relation to the plaster. And then I'm wondering if the railing really needs to come down all the way to the deck level, especially at this upper level where it looks like potentially there's some privacy issues there with your neighbor. And it would also help privacy on the deck with probably without hurting the view much if this, the railing, there was like a little bit of a wall at the base. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it also would, the smallness of the relationship between the top of the roof and the beginning of the deck, that's kind of weak, and then I think having a little more plaster there would help that as well, besides the privacy issue. Oh, and then the retaining walls at the front along the drive, were those going to be capped with something, or? I'm assuming they're plaster walls.
There, we're going to actually be a type of concrete block that look like stone.
Oh. Okay. All right, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
With regard to the windows,
I like the windows that you've selected on the flanking on the front, and if with the smaller vertical mullions on the top transoms, and would like to see that wrap around at least on this front unit, not necessarily in the back, because I don't think anything past here is going to be seen, but and given the style of this building, it would be nice to see some sort of support of a corbel or some sort of plaster, wood or plaster detail underneath, supporting this cantilever. And yeah, if you did the mullions on the front unit, wrap it around to the opposite side, the east elevation as well, at least for these first three windows. And then past that, maybe not necessarily. The railing detail I don't think is in keeping with the style of the house. And something more traditional would be preferable, especially because I do think this top deck will be seen from quite a ways away. I believe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm digging the glass block detail, but given that it's kind of recessed in there, how it's detailed will be important to making that successful. That's it.
Thanks. I think I agree with most of the comments, my fellow board members. I think, as Kirk was suggesting, that maybe this turns into some sort of retaining planter situation. That's the resolution there. I think I agree with Stephanie's comments about maybe carrying these smaller mullions, at least on those front unit on the sides. I'm okay with the transom or windows there at that end. I agree with Kirk's observation about maybe creating a small plaster wall there if you can do that without causing drainage issues on your deck. But I think that architecturally helps. Do want to see a resolution to the trash locations, given that you have a pretty tight site. So we'll want to see that. And then the only other comment is maybe just looking at, I think you've done a really good job making the windows a lot more cohesive than the first pass, and maybe just studying some of these more horizontally proportioned windows to maybe do the same thing there. There's kind of a little bit of a variation now that seems maybe a little too much. So maybe study those a little bit, but other than that, I think you've done a good job, and see what the board members feel about moving this forward.
I think it's ready for project design approval. But that it probably should return to the full board. What kind of continuance would you like, 2 weeks or longer?
2 weeks. I need a calendar now. 2 weeks is
Well, you really need to develop a lot of your construction drawings, a lot of detailing.
for that point.
Yeah.
It should probably be indefinite.
Yeah. You should be ready to submit to the building department, basically.
Okay. So, and do you want a date now or
No,
no?
just
Okay.
so I can give you either 2 weeks or indefinite, and then you
Indefinite.
can
Okay.
indefinite
Sounds good.
continuance
All right.
to the full board, and to return with all exterior details associated with the architecture of the project. And to restudy all development that's shown in the setbacks, both at the front yard and the side yards, to be consistent with the city regulations. Study providing more consistency in the window type and size, and also providing more dimension to the plaster where windows are located near the corners. Study adding vertical mullions to the upper windows on the east and west side of the front unit, similar to the street elevation. Restudy the railing to be more simplified than the photographs shown, and I think I'll just leave it at that, more simplified. And study adding plaster wall below the railing at the third floor deck areas. Is there something about landscaping you want to add?
Nothing real specific other than to. Oh, yeah, but to provide a very detailed planting plan along with an irrigation plan, including proposed parkway plantings.
So, Chris, do you want to second the motion?
Sure.
Okay. Chris will second, add those comments. Under discussion, any other comments?
Can I ask a question of the applicant? Is this what's this being indicated right here?
That's the shed roof. The fascia of the shed roof. So.
I see.
So this is the shed roof right here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And you understand that we'd be looking for even rake, window details around the garage door, edge, balcony edge, deck edge, kind of. Okay.
All right. Any more discussion items? Okay. Take to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I got it. Yeah.
On to item 5, 1198 Coast Village Road. And we're running about half an hour behind.
Good afternoon. How's it going? Good afternoon. I'm sorry. I'm going to pick up the pace. There you go. Good afternoon. My name is Greg Schwant, the designer for the owner. And this is Denise Alec. She's a rep for the owner. So this is the old Peabody's restaurant. And what the owner would like to do is add some outside covered areas for the existing patio, a roof structure where you can move the bar outside. And
perhaps you could start just kind of walk us through the photographs of the existing building and show us where you're proposing the work.
Okay. So basically it's going to be adding on right to the side here. It will cover this whole back here out to the fence area, this fence will be taken down and pushed back a little bit to get a planter in front. So it's mainly on the north elevation. This is from Coast Village. You really can't see it on Coast Village. We do have a small little roof structure to kind of tie them together, the two patios together, so they look the same. This is looking east, and this will all be taken down and cleaned up. And I'm sorry, but we started, yeah. Right. And that's just a neighboring property there. And more neighbors.
Okay, why don't you walk us through?
Sure. So basically right now the property has a existing hotel, and Peabody's in the corner of Middle Road and Coast Village. And the area that we'd like to enclose or put a roof on is the back area here, and leaving the wood deck relatively open. The fence right now is in pretty sad shape, so we'd like to move it in a little bit and create a planter, add a new solid wood fence, and take out some of the angles that it has right now and just do a little cleaner lines. Recess the entrance into this space to one space. Right now it has multiple entrances. It has an existing bar inside that we'd like to push outside. It has a large cypress tree that's would have to be removed. And then we want to put in a kind of like a pizza oven in the corner in the bar area for a little food prep area. And mainly over here, it's just kind of cleaning up what's there, adding the new fence, and doing a little roof structure here that would match this one here. And then this is actually solid roof, and this would be a retractable awning.
Can you show us on the roof plan all that occurs, please?
Sure. So over the existing wood deck, we have a little gable trellised roofed area to kind of hide the heaters. We can hide the heaters up in there, the patio heaters. And then here, this is a gable here. We just kind of add on to the gable. I can show you on the elevation. We mainly want to put a concrete CMU wall here, which would be sided with shingles to match the existing part of the building. And so it has basically a 4 and 12 pitch up to a ridge and then slopes back down. And then this is the retractable awning part. And this just shows the existing seating. It has an old bar in here. The patio right now this is concrete, this is a tree, and this is just kind of a nondescript area that we'd like to kind of just clean up. So basically, a 1/4-inch scale, moving the bar out to this area here. We need the covered roof to be able to transfer food to the exterior for the health department. And so this would develop just a retractable awning that we could, pull down in weather or sun. And then, so basically, this existing structure here is kind of a mishmash, if you will, that we'd like to kind of just block on both sides so that we don't really see it as much. It also stops people from looking in from Middle Road. It's a nice screening. The 7-foot-high fence, add some planting in front of that, and then they'll do some planting in pots inside the patio area. And then, let me see. So the north elevation, looking from like the back parking lot, this is the existing structure here, and this is really low, so I need to get a little more height. So we're going to go with a 7-foot-high wall. That's that plaster wall on the inside and shingled on the outside. We'll keep the same pitch as the existing. We'll run some 8x8s down, and this has a small return over the opening, and this will be the retractable. And these are just like a post and beam. And I just wanted to kind of tie this roof structure in with the side deck. So we just made a little corrugated roof and a trellis to hide the heaters. And I'll show you on a detail how the heaters are going to be up in this area. So from the west elevation looking in, kind of see the slant there and the pizza oven and a little bit of the open bar.
So the existing roof is shingle?
This is a comp roof.
The new roof is...
I like to go with corrugated metal just to keep it kind of open and make it a little different, more like it's a patio versus a building or inside building. The Coast Village side, you don't really see too much except for the new post and beam trellis over the existing wood deck. The gable on the or the ridge on the back trellis is a little higher than the existing roof just to get some height in there. But from the street elevation, we're quite low on the street elevation side if you're standing on the sidewalk. And then if you're coming up Middle Road, this is that new wall here that we'll be building, and then we'll shingle it to match all the shingled siding, and then we'll have a dark corrugated roof. And of course, this is the vent stack for the oven, which is exposed tails. Kind of keep it woodsy the way it is. So if you're kind of standing inside the structure, looking north, these areas are all open with the 4x6s, some posts, and then we can hide the heaters up in these areas here, and then we can attach a heater to the beams to help these people out when it gets cold on a cold evening. But I try to keep it as low as I could, but still get just enough height to work with. And then the fence detail, we'll just do like a butt joint 1x8, and we'll stain it to match the building. And right now the building is just a shingle that's just been sunburned. So we've been doing a little work on doing like a whitewash to make it look more like a Cape Cod feel. So we're kind of putting it on heavy and then ragging it off. Just to, that's kind of our, and this would be the same as on the fence and all the posts. Keep it kind of monolithic. And
So
then,
we're doing that for the rest of the building?
correct.
The whole building?
Yeah, because you can see from the photos, a lot of it's just been, some of it's in really good shape and some of it's in really bad shape. So we, especially on the this elevation, these are just really weathered. We might have to replace a few of those, obviously. Yeah, I think the better ones are over here, but at least with this heavier stain, I can make the new shingles blend a little better with the old. And then we would take down this board and bat fence and do the butt joint and then just stain to match. So it's a little cleaner, and then we could run some ivy and, not ivy, but a vine of some sort on the wall to soften it, and we have a little planter in front of it now, so right now it's just hard to hard.
Looks like you already did it here, is that what it was?
I haven't done it there yet. We kind of did around, that's just the nature of the weather. But mainly, I think there was one photo that, maybe I probably have it marked thing, that shows how you can look right in from the, yeah, right here. You can just look right in from Middle Road now, and we'd like to just make this so you can't just stare right in. I think that would help it a little bit.
And this is the tree that you...
Correct. So right now, the tree, I don't know if there's a better photo, but it was originally, the main trunk of it was cut off, so it just has two vertical pieces. Here, you can this is a better photo. See how it was just basically destroyed, and it's right up against the foundation, and I think it's actually causing some damage. So in the scheme of things, with these other large canopy trees behind it, we'd like to take it out. Plus, we need it for the space. Here's another photo here that kind of shows the chop there. I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Open it up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on this project? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to the board for questions. Stephanie?
Is the roof over the entry also the corrugated metal roof as well? On the side entry off of
Yes. Yeah, this little bump out here.
the one to hide that you're doing just to hide the heaters off to the west.
What you showed on these plans here.
I'm sorry, I wasn't following you.
This roof.
Correct, corrugated to match. Yes.
Okay. And this is the new proposed roof.
Correct.
Okay, and it's this whole side.
Yeah, this side and a small break here, just so I can get the covered entrance to the bar.
And how high is this?
It starts at 7 foot,
Okay.
and it's about, the ridge is about 13.
Okay. That's it.
Is the reason for the height selected for this?
Ellis? Looks rather high.
Yeah, basically, I just went off the existing gable and just going to come. I mean, if we match the 2 points, I just came off of that point. I could lower it. Because now the fascia board dies into the side of the fireplace.
The equipment, looks like there's some, well, first of all, let me say that this looks like an equipment screen.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other equipment that's adjacent to your project that doesn't look like it was screened well or at all.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be addressing that at all?
Yeah, we can. We were just talking about that a little while ago.
Okay. Yeah, there's a better picture of it.
Yeah, we can make them all look maybe more like this one here.
Mm-hmm.
Shingle them and try to hide them a little better.
Those are my questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Gary. Chris?
Just a few. Right, is there any other vegetation or trees or vegetation being removed other than that cypress?
No.
Okay, and then was there ever talk of retaining that tree? Or have you had an arborist look at it for the condition, or was it always planned to come out?
Pretty much just planned to come out. We didn't, the owner really wants to put the bar outside, and it just made a lot more sense to put it there to get the plumbing and things that are located close to the kitchen.
Oh, I see. I was going to say, yeah, could the bar flip-flop
over
with the
yeah.
seating area?
I mean, we can talk to an arborist. Yeah, it's just, you can kind of see from this, I don't know if you want to see this photo, but if you can see from this photo, it's really close to the existing building. And I just think it would be a lot better for the building itself to remove that.
Okay, that's all I have for questions.
Comments?
I'm just going to start with what I'm looking at right now, which is this. All right, this is the middle road. So
Yeah, you're looking at
this is the middle road view. Right?
Correct.
Not as significant as Coast Village Road, but still it is. It still is a street view, and I'm just noticing that. This must be the back of kitchen area. Exposed trash cans, looks like pans being stored out there, and neglected part of the building plus the exposed equipment, and neglected landscaping. And it just seems like since you are putting all this money and effort into this enhancement on this side, that all of those things really should be addressed. Hiding the trash. Maybe there's some fencing here that could be added so that if there's some outside storage that's needed, it's hidden. This whole bank that faces the street could be re-landscaped so it's not just ivy. But in terms of the architecture, my own feeling is that except for some unfortunate remodeling and equipment that's been added, that basically, you have a nice shingle-style building. It's powerful. It's really a powerful building, and with the shingle siding and the big beams, eave and purlin details, ridge details, and I really feel like the addition needs to be consistent with that. It needs to be enhancement and architecturally consistent, and I don't feel like what's being proposed is doing that. I'm not saying that a metal roof is the problem. I think there could be an addition on this building that had a metal roof, but I don't think what's being proposed goes well with the style of the building. It provides a significant addition of roof area that does not blend well with the building. So I think it needs to be restudied. I think that I'll make some specific points. This little trellis area here, or you're calling it a trellis, is actually a roof. This is a patio cover. I think might be served better if it was just a flat roof as opposed to trying to match. You're actually, flush with the surface of the existing roof, but it could be much lower and flat instead of competing and changing materials and beam sizes and dimensional, all the dimensional features. If you're going to make that kind of significant change, I think it should not be flush. It should be down lower and a different height, and that maybe it should be flat. And then just these tall posts and the way the roof just pops up there as a different material. I just don't feel like it's consistent architecturally with the rest of the building. So those are my comments.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll tell you, I do enjoy a Peabody burger now and then, and I like to sit in the patio. And this cypress tree is something that I enjoy. And a tree of this stature is a community asset. It actually helps. This tree, this cypress tree, enhances the architecture of Peabody. it gives it that look, that Monterey or cottage look. This I am totally opposed to this project if the removal of this tree is included in it. It definitely is the largest tree in the Coast Village Road area, and I really think that you need to relook at this project, and clearly it could be done in a different way and the tree be saved. So just knowing that, just looking at this portion of it, I'm opposed to this project, the site locations that you've chosen. And I'm not opposed to adding onto the patio or making the bar location or moving things around, but if it's at the cost of removing this tree, then I would say that you don't have a project. And that's the direction that I'm heading.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Gary has a good point that this big tree is an asset to the site, and I mean it's kind of why I asked the question: could we flip-flop the bar and have the seating could go right up around this tree, and so that's what I'm going to be pushing for also. So we look for an alternative concept, I think, altogether. I think Kirk's thoughts on the roof and the different style, I think I'm on board with that also. And I would like to see an overall landscape plan done, because I think we brought up some issues about how that corner looks and doesn't seem to be addressed at this time. I know we're still conceptual, but so we'd look forward to for the next meeting. If you had a landscape plan, would be helpful to kind of take a look at this as a whole from a landscape perspective. But the tree is crucial, I think, and there'd be some community outrage, I think, if that just dropped one day. So hopefully we can work on protecting that somehow.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think I agree with the fellow board members regarding the tree, even though it has been kind of compromised with some of the pruning over time, but it is a skyline tree, and it does appear that there could be an alternative layout that would still get your basic program in there and preserve it by kind of flipping that around. And that might tie in with Kirk's comments that there's kind of two approaches to this additional roof area, and that one is that it blends into the building kind of seamlessly, and the other, as he suggested, might be that it's a little separate vocabulary, that maybe it's a low pitch or flat pitch or something, and that might allow you to easily have the tree kind of pop through that and maybe architecturally tie that into the cover over off of Coast Village, so that it's you kind of have your gable form, and then you have this flat patio trellis that kind of wraps around the building and ties all that together. I agree with the comments that part of the project needs to be considered is cleaning up the existing rooftop equipment and screening that, and as well as a landscape plan that also screens the kind of back of house there off of Middle Road to sort of, again, clean that up and integrate it into the building. So I think on our preliminary landscape plan, it's definitely a way to address that. So yeah, I think in my mind we'd like to see a different approach that would still provide the program that you're looking for in saving the tree and cleaning up some of the existing conditions. Could I have?
Would you like 2 weeks or indefinite continuance?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay, 2-week continuance with the following comments: that removing the sycamore tree is not considered
Cypress, excuse me, thanks. The cypress is not acceptable to the board. That the proposed architectural style of the additions is not consistent with the existing building. And needs to be redesigned. To study removing or screening existing roof equipment and trash area as viewed from anywhere, Middle Road or Coast Village Road. Study providing a landscape plan for the front yard area along Middle Road. And for any other new plantings, planting areas being proposed. I think that was it.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Second by Gary, under discussion.
Under discussion regarding the tree, it's possible that its health is poor, so I think it would be important to have an arborist look at it. So, and you know, if it is declining, and now might be the time to take it out, it might be a safety issue. So I think taking a closer look at it before we go change everything might be wise.
We can add that in. It's not a requirement. We can make it a requirement of the next review.
It's kind of a major element. So
If they want to remove the tree, I believe that it is, get an arborist report that says this is a dying tree, then I think that changes our viewpoint of the whole project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. They would need to get an arborist report one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah, might as well do it up front.
All right.
Right. Any other under discussion items? Okay, so all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Can I ask a question? Or can I miss one? So I just for clarity's sake, so we have a better picture kind of further away at Peabody's from across the street, showing the roof line, that it kind of, it kind of gets whacked off. It looks like it kind of doesn't finish over here because the central part of the building from across the street is from here.
Right, that one.
So I'm just curious, from your perspective, you would rather not see the continuation of that roof line to about here? You'd rather it be like
Well,
flat,
I
just flat?
think as I mentioned, there might be two approaches. One would be to kind of seamlessly integrate the new roof with the existing, which means it may be same height, eave height, material, could be broader. That could be one approach, and then the other might be just a completely different form. So that's why we threw out the idea of the flat roof, so that it completely contrasts as clearly as an addition. So I think kind of either one of those approaches could be successful.
I think a third approach would be to not have any additional, because to me it actually makes it seem more massive, and it stretches that building out even further.
But I think depending on their program, if they want to have a covered space, I think that's
certainly entitled to that.
I don't think it looks cut off, and
It's balanced.
yes, I think it's balanced.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. I don't know. I think they had some of these, and we probably took them back. Yeah, I think you got them there.
Okay, moving on. Item 6, 1123, what is it? Quintiesos Street? What is this? Wait.
I didn't bring my pictures and some renderings, maybe. Tony have them.
Okay, your name for...
Okay, my name is Patricio Nava. I'm the designer for this project, and it's a kind of simple addition.
Can you start out maybe showing us where it's located and show us the photographs of the existing site and neighborhood?
Okay, this is 500 is on the east side of Milpa Street, and the lot has a duplex on the front and another building on the back, which is a two-story apartment, let's say, with a 3-car garage. And the pictures of the, let me show you the neighborhood. This is the picture of the front of the building, and on this one we can see this is the adjacent building on the west side, which is right here, and it's kind of big building. Right here you can see it here. Yeah. So that's the
from the rear.
Yep.
Okay.
Just those two driveways are together. This is the back building, which is right there. And those are kind of buildings that have been developed on the neighborhood. This is the adjacent, then another kind of multi-family, and then another here. Goes like that. And those pictures, I'm going to the site now. This is the site, and this is the back of the duplex right here. It's a shed roof, kind of back patio, and it's where I'm proposing the addition. It's a new master bedroom with a master bath and an extension of the existing living space, like. And I think it's pretty much on the pictures of the site, and you can go to the.
Walk us through your site plan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is 500 Street. This is the driveway and the building that we saw, the kind of new buildings on this side. And this is the front unit on the duplex, and this is the other unit, which is gonna have the addition on the very back. I show you on the back patio. It's actually it's a shed here, and this part is existing flagstone they use like a parking. We have some things with the parking, and this is on the existing archives. It only shows this as a driveway, and it's a non-conforming. There is no alteration to the unit. Just I guess we don't need any change on the parking, and this tree cover. That's pretty much it. The addition is going to be located here.
So this building would be removed?
No, that's an existing building.
So that would remain?
Yeah, it'll remain. That's just the addition is right here.
Are you taking anything out or just adding?
I'm just adding on there. Yeah, this is the unit in the front. This is the existing unit in the back, which has 2 bedrooms, 1 bath and kitchen. And this existing now it's living and dining. They try to make kind of together combined family room and make a kind of formal living and a master. And we have this building has kind of 2 levels, and the bedrooms are. I'm showing this section here. This is an 18 inches difference between floors, which that's what I'm trying to make different things here. Yeah. This is the front of the building, and I cannot generate this 3D to show that from a standpoint view, you don't see anything from the addition. This is obviously, if you see it right, you see this little peak of the roof, which is this one. And let me just show in here. This is the proposed addition in the back, right here. And the owner wants to use on the whole front duplex, can I use a wainscot with a stone veneer just to enhance the architecture and try to match with the new addition. And pretty much everything in the back, it has a rear patio outside of the master. This is the proposed bath, and on top is a room for kind of storage, which is kind of see here. The whole master is going to be kind of open beam up to the top, but the part that covers the new master bath and part of the closet, which is master closet here, this is right here, it's just flat, and kind of use a attic is storage. It's pretty simple, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I'll open up this item for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience wish to address this item? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board for questions. Stephanie, do you have any questions?
Yeah, my other question is why you would be putting windows into your attic space.
Well, at some point, this is the point. It's a little bit undecided on my client if he wants open like mezzanine storage or enclosed just the attic, and if he stays with an open mezzanine on right here, I just put a little wall here, and he can have more light coming into the whole bedroom. But and also for the look of the exterior of the building, it'll kind of be less massive. That's it.
Gary, questions? Chris, no questions? I don't have any questions either. Maybe we can jump into comments. Chris?
I like the way this looks, actually, and the one thing that I'm kind of noticing is on the north elevation, being that it's the north elevation, I wondered if that little shed roof there on the back may be better off as sort of an attached trellis, so that you can get some more light into that room there. But that's minor in nature and just a thought. So that's really the only comment that I have.
Thanks, Chris. Gary?
Not a lot of comments. The only comment I would have is that I think that the stone above the kind of the clear story window area where the shed roof pops up, I think that's a little much. I think it's a little too much stone there, but other than that, I think it's a minor addition, and I think it's an improvement.
Thanks, Gary.
I don't have any comments about the architecture. It's fine. I just wonder about all the paving in the back and whether there's. The architecture is fine. I just wonder about all the paving and whether there are opportunities there to add some additional planting, either along the building.
Yeah, there is this is the existing back. There is actually this is existing all this. It's
Yeah, it looks like it's 10 feet wide.
There is another planter here, which you can see in the back pictures. Maybe let me see.
But it doesn't. Can't really see the planting that occurs along that side.
No, but
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, it's that one.
Okay, okay.
You see the fence here and goes all the way back. And
Okay.
on the back, there is the other part. Let me show you.
It just seems like there's, like for example, this space right here.
Yeah.
Is that required for back out in order to get out?
No, that's just an existing, as I said, since it's a non-conforming for parking, it's existing, and this is another planter which is right here or here.
Just seems like this yard area could be enhanced if there was some additional planting, but that's my only comment.
The only planting is the trees here and here in this planter, but it's existing, and all this is lawn. This part is kind of plenty of water going through this.
I have a comment about the stone, and just would encourage you to use a cap feature. If this is an Eldorado stone or a real stone, just have a real a stone cap that finishes off that stone base at the edge. Just a little shed piece there.
Yeah,
cap
it'd be nice.
Yes. That's it.
Yeah, I think I agree with fellow board members. I think this is an appropriate addition. It's enhancement of the existing structure. I'm fine with the way the stone wraps around on the clear story. It's consistent with that kind of tower element you have. I agree with Kirk that if there's any opportunities you can have or find for additional landscape planting, that would be great. But I understand that once you start touching that existing non-conforming parking, you're kind of opened up a can of worms. So I don't think that's necessarily a deal breaker. So I would look for a motion to get project design approval for this and move it forward in the process.
All right. I think people are getting tired of hearing my voice, but I'll make a motion for indefinite continuance to the consent calendar with project design approval with the following comments. Provide a stone cap for the stone wainscoting that's proposed. Provide details, architectural details that are consistent with the existing building for the addition. Look for opportunities for additional landscaping around the new rear entrance wherever possible.
Right, do we have a seconder of that motion?
Second.
Second by Stephanie. Anything under discussion? And just to clarify, so this would be a motion for project design approval with definite continuance to consent for final approval.
Right.
Correct. Okay. So, have a vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks.
For this evening, 2204 Parkway Drive.
Hello? Engagement at 6 o'clock, but I'll be a little late. Tell me he lost more plans.
Staff retrieves the plans.
Long time no see.
Okay, why don't I have you state your names for the record and give us your presentation.
Okay, Gil Garcia.
Everett
and
Woody.
Everett Woody. And this is an addition to the rear of an existing residence, one-bedroom addition over garage. There was a one-car garage. It was in bad shape, and it was demolished. So we're replacing it now with addition, three-car garage and a unit over the garage. The let's see the pictures. Do you have the?
They're in the set.
In the set. Okay, good.
In the back.
Get you some orientation here. We have. Let's see. You took these pictures. Why don't you tell them which they are? Upside down. I can't. This is the look at this is the back of the site here, the back of the house here, the existing residence, right?
Yeah, number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 is the front of the existing cottage. 2 is the side view, at least as good as we could get it. And with the proximity of the fence in here, I couldn't get that shot. 5 is the neighboring residence here, which is a very similar cottage-style design. Our property is flanked by a commercial building, which is used as daycare in the back.
Here and here.
Yep, there and there. Yep.
Were you up on a taking these?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, a ladder to take the
Yeah.
front.
This is a very narrow site, and we did a lot of schemes trying to fit this unit on the site and worked with staff to come up with something that they felt comfortable with that meets all the open space requirements. It was staff and agreed that it would be best to take the one-story portion of the garage and put it up against a property line. That's a modification that's going to be requested, and that we take as much the full setback then from the adjoining residential property, and as I mentioned, bring it up against this commercial property. The driveway is narrow, very tight existing, so we wanted to not have people walk down the driveway, so we're going to, and we haven't designed it yet, but we're working on that. This is really going for a modification right now. We will be designing a walkway along here to take people into more of an entry courtyard back in here. So we kind of isolate ourselves a little bit from all the traffic and give people more of a pedestrian path to get back to the entry of the unit back here. The, let's see. This is the floor plan of the garage and the unit above the garage with a deck to one side. Meeting the owner's program, he wanted a deck facing out more toward the back of the residential property. The residential property is towards the front, and this looks a little more open, free, so he wanted a deck in that location. The looking from the street, you have the two-car garage and the one-car garage. You'll see mainly the one-car garage from the driveway, which is kind of a typical thing that you see in little cottage residences, one-car garage in the back. And then the entrance is going to be in the back, as I mentioned before. And then this is the up against the property line with a pitch, and then the one story over that. And this is a section showing little clear story windows over that. The design, cottage windows, and some of the cottagey details, starting to take some from the front element. We have a difference of material here. I guess it's plaster on top?
Shingles.
Shingles on top and siding, horizontal siding at the bottom. I try to make it as simple as possible. It's just simple little single pitch roof, make it as innocuous as we can.
The ground floor shiplap matches the shiplap on the existing
house.
cottage.
Is little cantilever?
That's a pot shelf for plants off of the balcony. We'll have, yeah, plants. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience like to address the board on this project? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to the board for questions. Chris?
Mr. Chair, we'd like to acknowledge a letter received from a neighbor, Jody Leitner. We sent that to you all via email this morning. And she's concerned, she and her husband are concerned that this, about the historic character be preserved for Oak Park Lane, that the lot's very constrained for development due to its configuration. Not clear how parking will be accommodated for residents of the existing single-family dwelling and a new unit and for their guests. They do not believe this lot is suited for this level of additional development, and requests that tall, dense landscaping be provided along the southeast boundary to screen views from the outdoor living space of the new unit into their backyard and protect their privacy.
Thank you, Toby. Any sort of questions?
Chris? Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess the first question would be, have you been in contact with the neighbor who has concerns about the views?
The owner has, but I don't know if he's got that good relationship with that neighbor, does he? Is that the neighbor he has a problem with?
No, not at all.
No, okay. Well, the owner was supposed to have been in contact with neighbors. We have.
Okay. And then has transportation signed off on the configuration?
Yes. Yes, like I say, we worked very closely with staff on this project.
The staff design on this has been going on for about a year.
I'm having trouble seeing how that third car is able to back out of that spot. But, yeah.
Actually, it does it in one maneuver, believe it or not.
So that's all the questions I have, though.
Thanks, Gary.
Kirk?
So there's just one modification being proposed?
Yes.
So it's consistent with the ordinance to have a outdoor living space right property line?
No,
This is property line.
Property line's over here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. We're actually detaching ourselves full setback when actually we're allowed to go 3 foot, I guess, in the back.
So the modification is for the
Modification is
setback
the
here.
setback
Okay,
here,
I was
against the
reading this,
commercial.
I thought this was the property
No,
line here.
against
so
the commercial
okay.
property.
Okay, right, I see it. And then, I don't know what happened to the drawing which showed the site in relation to other sites, but is that in the set?
Yes.
There's a survey. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. You had another drawing that also showed the photographs, locations.
Last page.
Oh, right. I'm just wondering, have you documented, it looks like there probably are other encroachments in the neighborhood. Do you know for a fact whether there are, or have you tried to document that?
There are a lot of the standard garage encroachments that happen.
Parking encroachments.
Parking encroachments that are standard for cottages.
This was actually a private drive, or a public drive at one time. In 1956, City Council gave it up and turned it into a private driveway for these residences. So it's an odd thing. You actually drive up a curb cut here into an elevated driveway that these guys all share.
It's a shared driveway. Oh.
Yeah.
Most of the encroachments you see are against other residential properties, where we're proposing it against a commercial property.
I always thought this is the person that wrote the letter, and our design, has significant distance away from that residence. and even the majority of their yard, probably not the rear, the majority of it.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thanks.
Stephanie,
I'm trying to get a sense of the roof pitch on this house. This is the existing residence. Is this one roof pitch? Is that it? Just one roof pitch over the whole thing?
yes, except for an addition that was done like in the 30s.
Okay, on the
It
back.
was a sun porch or something back
Is
in
it
the
a
30s.
different roof pitch?
Same pitch,
It's
just
just-
it's
okay.
narrower, so one side.
All right, and
Actually, I take that back. It looks like a different pitch on this
Yeah.
side, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, stand corrected.
And is your roof pitch the same as that, or is it steeper?
We're doing a steeper roof pitch.
Significantly steeper.
Yeah.
Those are my questions.
Thanks, Stephanie. Chris, comments?
I don't really have any comments. I just will look forward to seeing the landscape plan, especially in regards to that pedestrian walkway along the opposite side where the driveway is at the next meeting. But that's all I have for comments.
Thanks. Gary?
I think it can be a successful project. A minor comment. I mean, I really don't have that much of a problem with the size, bulk, and scale. It's a little tough seeing the garage on the setback line. But I am okay with the modification given the location of the structure. One of the things I would like to see, though, is looking at your existing building and the deck railing that you chose to put on there. You put on some fretwork, some cutout fretwork for the railing, and I think that would be a nice, unless that's not your...
No, that is ours.
Yeah, I think that fretwork.
Oh, you're talking about that.
Yeah, I think that fretwork would be a nice detail on such an expansive overhead deck that neighbors would see, and it would bring in some of that character that perhaps the neighbors are looking for.
I don't have any comments.
Stephanie, comments?
My comments are that the building seems to me pretty big back there, and it seems like it could be reduced in kind of the scale could be brought down, bringing down some of the either the pitch of the roof or in some way simplifying some of the details to be more consistent with the original house in the front. It just seems really ornate and highly detailed compared to the simplicity of the kind of the craftsman building in the front, and overly fussy. I mean, albeit nice if it were standing on its own, but I don't think it's working with the front building, but those are my comments.
First comment on the modification, I think given the narrow constraints of the site and the kind of context with similar conditions, I think that the proposed modification doesn't have any aesthetic impacts. Will looks forward to the preliminary landscape plan and developing the pedestrian path to the rear while accomplishing the screening that your neighbor is requesting here along that edge. I think mass, bulk, and scale, what you're proposing is overall acceptable. I think I agree with Stephanie. It could come down a little bit. It looks like you have a 9-foot plate, and maybe given the volume ceiling, you might consider bringing that down a little bit. And also, I think the comments of perhaps simplifying the architecture a bit to be more consistent with the front house would be would be warranted. But other than that, I think it's acceptable mass, bulk, and scale in the site plan given the tight existing lot. So this is for comments only. Project needs to go to the staff hearing officer for the review of the modifications. So any motion should address the proposed modification.
Sure.
I'll make a motion. I think we should see it one more time before it goes to the staff hearing officer, just for your benefit. So do you want a 2-week continuance? I think the comments are relatively minor. Or indefinite. So 2-week or
No,
indefinite?
we can. I thought you guys met again next week, or is that just consent next week?
It's every, we meet every 2 weeks.
Okay, 2 weeks is fine.
Okay. 2-week continuance to the full board with the following comments. Provide a preliminary plan for the pedestrian pathway, landscaping, and screening to address the neighbors' concerns on the south. Study reducing the height, the proposed height, by reducing plate heights or other options. Study simplifying the detailing of the addition to better blend or better accommodate the existing architecture. And the board does not find that proposed modification has aesthetic impacts. That's it.
Okay, do we have a seconder of the motion?
Second.
Can I make a...
Seconded by Stephanie.
Yeah,
Mr.
just a
Garcia.
suggestion. We came really here to really get your feeling on the modification, and I think you got positive for the modification. We have no problem with your suggestions, and we'll go ahead and do those. But if possible, I'd like to move to schedule a modification hearing based on your comments.
With the work in progress.
Yeah, with work in progress. Because I think they're looking just for your modification comments, and we have no problem with your issues.
Understood.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick straw poll here. Does any of the board members object to
No.
that? No. Okay, so Kirk, do you want to just revise that one comment?
Okay, so that basically it'd be an indefinite continuance back to the full board after the staff hearing officer review. That's it.
Yeah.
With the comments we've already made are incorporated.
And we could come back if it takes a long time to do we'll come back.
Well,
schedule
that's
a
why I
meeting.
suggested coming back first with the additional landscape design, just so you would eliminate that neighbor's concerns before you went on to staff. But if you do that as part of the process, then you'll probably
we'll
be
do that
okay.
as part of the process. Okay, thank you.
They got to vote. They got to vote.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Have a good evening.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the ABR meeting for today, June
25th.